you're on, I would have to say yes, right, Christina?
Yep, and I'm gonna make you a co-host so that you can share your screen.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And funny, man. I'm seeing some names on here that weren't on the other time, which I love. That is awesome. Okay. What I would love from everybody is if you could turn on your video, if at all possible. And just so you guys know, the biggest reason for that is I don't care where you are. You could be cleaning your house, cooking dinner. I don't care what you're doing, but seeing you helps me as the instructor of this class to interact, and it's also good for everybody else on this. I really want us all to be able to have interaction today. So just like I said last week with this, what I would ask is that for background noise, we remember to mute our mics. And then for questions, anything like that, use the chat box. If anybody has a question that they would like to interrupt in the middle of anything that I'm talking about, I know there's the raise your hand feature, or just put something in the chat, and Christina will be monitoring that for us so that I can stop and answer a question if need be. So I would love to see your faces. And I think that's it. So as we get ready to jump into Win the Seller, I just want to make sure everybody understands, I believe as new agents, as an agent who's maybe been in this business for 1 to 5 years, and I know there's experienced agents on this call with us right now. I see Nita is on this, right? So Nita's been on an agent for many, many years. I can tell you that getting listings, winning the seller is the most important thing you can do in this industry. You'll hear people talk about lead generation, and yes, no doubt about it. You could lead gen until you're blue in the face. If you don't have a listing, you got problems. Okay, listings control the market. So this class today is absolutely massive for all of us. So we're going to talk about winning the listing. We're going to talk about the value that you provide with a pre-listing packet, and then how to succeed with your listing presentation. We're going to watch a video today on a gentleman from Vancouver who shares his listing presentation with people. I think that ties back to the collaborative model in KW. Bill, my business partner, Bill Boswell, your OP, he has shared our listing presentation with you guys in classes. So it's all about sharing everything. So I'm going to talk about some of the things we do in our listing presentation today. I'm going to have you guys ask as many questions as possible throughout it. And if I can get through all of the content, I don't want to say quickly enough, I don't want to rush, but if we can get through it with enough time at the end, we'll just rip through as many questions that you guys potentially have. Again, we're looking at about a 3-hour class. I think we got done in about 2.5 last time. So that's a big one for me. We are going to do some action. We're going to jump on phone calls. First and foremost, let's go into the chat right now. Our goal, as we know, is to add at least 10 contacts per day. So what I would like to see each person, the number, if you guys could post into the chat, how many contacts add from last week till this week, or on a daily, however it is that you guys want to go. When was our class, Christina? What's today, Monday? When was our class?
It was February 24th, I believe, the Wednesday.
That was Wednesday. So you got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Let's not count weekends. That's 3. So in 3 days, add to the chat right now, how many contacts did you add to your database? And the fact that I don't see anybody jumping on that right away. All right, Fred, thank you. That's an honest man, huh? Keep going. Anybody? How many contacts did you add to your database? This is us reporting our 10-4. This is what's important, guys. This is where accountability comes in. So I appreciate everybody putting in whatever the true numbers are. It's all good. Okay, good mix there. Great mix. All right, remember to mute your mics too, guys, so we don't have background noise. Okay, guys, so I see a bunch of zeros. I appreciate the honesty. I see some of the low numbers, the 1s, 2s, and the 5s. I see some breaking in that 10 mark. The more contacts you add to your database, higher your chances are of converting business. You don't have contacts, you don't have an opportunity to convert business, period, the end, right? That's what last week's class was with me, talking database. You need contacts. You don't have contacts, you can't touch nobody. Can't touch nobody, can't set up a list appointment. Can't set up a list appointment, can't get a listing. Can't get a listing, can't sell a listing, right? Real simple stuff here. So I'm no genius, clearly. I'm just speaking the obvious. So I just want to, I appreciate you guys putting this on. Every one of the instructors should be asking you guys the same questions inside of that. So now let me go to the next thing before I continue on with us and winning the seller. How many handwritten notes did each of you send out, let's say in the last 3 business days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, handwritten notes? How many did you guys hand out or send out? Caitlin, I got yours. Thank you very much. So just to show proof that people are in fact doing it, right? Caitlin was sending hers out, and we live in the same neighborhood. And so she sent one out to me as well, which I got an absolute smile out of. So thank you for sending that. Okay, Fred sent out 5. Nice, very good. Keep coming, keep coming. Okay, Abel, if I'm saying that name right, I hope I am. Yep. Cool, thanks. So Abel, some email notes. Let me just be frank. No, that doesn't count for handwritten notes. Handwritten notes are very, very different. So we all receive way too many emails every single day. I'm not telling you not to use emails, but I am tying this to the handwritten notes and how different it is. So I was on this call last week, right? And we all talked about this. And some of you actually sent direct messages to me, which was awesome and super encouraging. However, when I received Caitlin's handwritten note, there was a difference in my emotion. Okay, fact. I cut open that envelope and I opened up her card, and I brought it had brought an immediate smile to my face. I actually shared it with my wife. I told her about the class. I told her who Caitlin was, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a live example of what happens when somebody receives a handwritten note. Okay, so Abel, yes, keep rocking and rolling with anything you're doing email wise, but please adopt a handwritten note. I promise you, it's a massive, massive difference. Okay, and then Sarai didn't send them all out, but she wrote about 8. Awesome. So Sarai, I can tell you that some of the things I've done in the past is if I found myself on a roll and I was just ripping through my notes, and I know that I like to send out 3 per day, I might save it. I might send out 3 on Monday. I might send out 3 on Tuesday. This way, if the next day I'm a little bit strapped for time, I've at least got them on tap, ready to go. So that's totally fine that you're doing. So beautiful. Keep it up. And let's get ready to win the seller. Guys, I'm super stoked about this because this is where I live and die in this business, is on the listing side of things. I think I saw Eric Melnikoff come on. I know Eric shares that sentiment with me. Eric has an amazing Facebook page that talks about the secret successes of a listing agent and why that's so important. Gary Keller talks in MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, right? The best book in real estate, the 3 L's of real estate: leads, listings, leverage. So leads talks about that database, listings, what we get to pull from our database, and then how we get to leverage them. So it doesn't talk about buyers. That doesn't mean we don't work with buyers. This is all about why the listings are so important in this business. So expectations for the day, guys. I want you guys to understand how to effectively use a pre-listing packet. We're going to go deep there. We're going to learn and practice the listing presentation, which, full disclosure, so much harder to do via Zoom. We're going to give it our best shot. It's hard to do. So I'm going to open up the door to future opportunities here in the Market Center. We'll have to keep it limited because of COVID, but I'm there. So I am 100% putting myself out there for listing presentation practices and doing it live and in person here in the Market Center. We'll put together a sign-up sheet for that because I think it's that important. We're going to talk about how we ask for the business. So I know a lot of people in this industry that I've been in business with, meaning We've done transactions together. They've been a part of my market center. I've seen them in the past companies that I've been with. Here's what I can tell you. Some agents are really good agents, and yet they don't do the amount of business that I would expect them to do. And so much of that has to do with the fact that they just don't ask for the business. And a lot of that comes from that position of fear, where we get right to that point and we're almost done, and then nothing, and we stop, right? You have to ask for the business in many cases. They're not just going to be like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Come tomorrow, 5 o'clock. I'll have a pen in my hand. I can't wait to sign your agreement. It just doesn't work that way. You have to ask for the business. You can't go out at night and you can't see that really attractive girl at the other end of the room, or attractive guy at the other end of the room, and expect to have a conversation with them the next day. Right? Like, you got to walk up and say, how you doing? Right? You have to ask for the phone number. That's how it works. If you don't ask for the phone number, there's no chance at the date. There's no chance at the date. There's no chance you're getting married. There's no chance you're having a family. There's no chance you're having kids. I know that's like so ridiculous, but take it from the point of, if I don't have the lead, if I don't have the contact, I don't have the conversation, I don't have the handwritten note, I don't have the listing presentation, I don't have the listing, I don't have the sale. It's the same thing, right? It's this whole domino effect. So we're going to talk about how we ask for that business. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense to you guys, right? Because I get into those dorky analogies, but I can't help it. So we talked about our 10-4. We're going to roll on from there. When we start working on this, I hope you guys are starting to get comfortable with those calls that you guys have been making, working through your database, working through your sphere, asking for the referrals. If you guys, you've been in these classes already for a little while, so you should start to be getting a little bit comfortable with that. Let's see here. Where do we want to go? We want to go into some lead generation. One of the things we talked about last week was the KW mobile app. So let me now ask another question. I asked you guys how many people you added to your database. I also asked you how many handwritten notes you sent out. How many people downloaded your mobile app this week? Go ahead and drop that in the chat. This is very, very, very important. I love the honesty right away with the zeros. Thank you. Okay, a lot of zeros. It's all good. So Abel, it's your mobile app. You don't have it yet. You'll get it as you work through the onboarding process. Awesome. Pedro Marie got 2. Gianna got 1. Gianna, is it Gianna or Giona? I want to make sure I'm saying it right.
Gianna.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So a lot of zeros, guys. This is one of those easy ones. This is one where you get to call your sphere and you're just chilling, having a great conversation. And in the conversation, when the real estate comes up, oh, by the way, I have this sick app. I'm going to send it to you via text, download it. You could look up any property across the country, anywhere, anytime. It doesn't cost you any money. It's amazing. It's a great search tool. So I'm not pushing anything. I'm not trying to ask for business at that moment in time. I'm just trying to attach myself to them. And it's so important because now I get to pull them into my world. This is where the mobile app is so productive for us as agents. I get to pull them into my world. And then when they're doing stuff, when they're searching on it, we see it. So it becomes predictable business because I know who's out there searching on my app, what they're searching for, and then I get to tie back into them. So I hope that makes all kinds of sense. Okay, so we talked about handwritten notes. All right, next we're gonna get busy here. So the idea of lead generation is important, and the pre-listing packet is gonna be something that we're gonna talk about today, and how the pre-listing packet sets the mind of the seller long before I even meet them in person, if it's that way. So the pre-listing packet and the listing presentation are basically, from a boxing analogy, like a 1-2 punch. Okay, it's the setup and the knockout is what it is, and it's very important that we consider using both of these. So we have leads, which we talked about, right? Then we have our appointments, which is what we're kind of at right now. And then we get to the agreement, and then we get to the contract. So before we can even get to a listing agreement, we've got the appointment set. And with the appointment set, we're going to talk today about this pre-listing packet and the value that it has. So you guys know that I was with Bill at a different company before, right? We were at Coldwell Banker, as were some of the people on this one. Fred was at Coldwell Banker. When Bill and I were at Coldwell Banker, we actually did use a pre-listing packet long before I even jumped on with KW. And the key to the pre-listing packet was that I was able to be prepared for anything and everything that a seller would have for me on the day of the listing, so that when I showed up to take the listing, and notice I said to take the listing, they didn't even give me the listing yet. But in my head, I showed up to take a listing. I didn't go to a listing appointment. I showed up to take a listing. And so when I had this pre-listing packet with all their information filled out in advance, it puts me so far ahead of every other agent who doesn't use it, because now they have a ton of questions to ask, whereby when I send that pre-listing packet, I've got answers to questions already, which is part A of importance. Part B is there's a subliminal mind game going on here, that the seller is kind of thinking already that they're working with you. So when you sent them this packet and they're filling out information, in their mind, they're already working towards a signed agreement. They're already thinking that they found their listing agent. You guys see why that's important to send out something in advance prior to even showing up. Okay, it's huge. Christina, there's a video that talks about developing our listing skills at this point. Do you have that one? So it's not the listing presentation, but it's the listing skills.
Let me pull it up 1 second.
I appreciate it. So guys, before Christina actually plays that, why do we focus on listings? Whether somebody wants to raise their hand or drop something in the chat, and then we can have a conversation about it. Why do we focus on listings? First person in there, I'm going to have a conversation with. Could be anybody.
When you have listings, you automatically get buyers.
Thank you very much. No doubt about it, right? So if we go out for a buyer, we've got one person. But if we take a listing, essentially we have two, right? So Sarai, awesome. Thank you. Perfect. Anything else? Why do we go after these listings leverage? Joe, get on there, Joe. Talk to me. What is it about the listing, Joe, that is leverage?
Well, it sets up your entire business, right? Because when you have the listings, you have the open houses, that just provides you with an enormous amount of communication, whether it's mail, email, getting on the phone and actually calling the neighborhood. And that's going to create, as Saray said, that's going to create buyers. And it's a proven fact that every one listing should generate 2 more transactions.
That's right.
That's the leverage.
Now let's talk about time, right? Golden commodity as realtors. What is the average that they say in the industry, Joe? If you know, how many buyers could you close in the same amount of time that you could do listings, vice versa? You know that number?
Yeah, I know the number in terms of the hours, whereas there's, I believe the way that I remember it from the bold class was up to 36 hours with a buyer and close to 15 or 16 with a seller.
Right.
And that's the thing that just jumps out at you.
Yeah. So they say that you can close effectively 2 to 3 listings in the same time it would take you to close 1 buyer. So you could see why listings are so important, especially for time management. Fred, you won't be standing in the rain online to get into a house. This is true. We had 41 groups through our one of our open houses in Wayne yesterday, and everybody was online outside. Insane. All right, Christina, I don't want to override you here too much. Do you have that video ready?
Yep, I'll start sharing my screen.
Thank you.
And then everyone can see this?
All good?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Hi, my name is Gene Rivers, and I'm here today to tell you how to develop your listing skills to a very high level. And after you've done that, you'll be able to go in and take over market share. Number one, the best source for listing leads is from your sphere and past client list. The fact is, the people you know Know the people that are going to be moving, whether it's at church, school, work, friends, relatives. Focus on making sure they understand you're in the listing business. Create a pre-listing package that you would give every seller, but rename it your guide to selling homes successfully in your market. And then give that to the people in your database that you know have influence, that's collateral materials that they can give to their friends and refer you. Step 2, focus on an area, product, or price range. When you develop mastery of a product or an area, you will much more quickly succeed in those areas. And in that area or in that product or price range, focus on the FSBOs in that area, the expireds in that area, door knock in that area, geographic farm in that area, and I'm talking a fairly tight area, so that the people in that area will really identify with you as someone who can help them sell property for top dollar with low hassle in a short amount of time. Now we're at number 3. Everyone today that's looking at hiring an agent, whether it's a referral, even a past client, or a stranger who's gotten your name somehow, they're going to check you out on the web. So you need to make sure that your website is competent, that you've got basic, powerful content in there, and specifically that on the landing page, the very opening page, there is a direct offering to a seller. Find out what your home is worth, get a guide to selling your home. But if you don't do that, you're going to miss opportunities, because people will get your name, check your website out, and go, I don't think so. I've seen a lot better sites. Fix your website with a database that you are working on a consistent basis, and with a tight focus. You build your reputation. If you're visible, you will find you will take over more and more listings, and in a very short amount of time, 12 to 24 months, you will own that market. That's how you take market share.
So Gene Rivers is the guy that you just saw speak. He is an absolute monster in the KW world for anybody who just saw him for the first time ever. And I mean monster. The guy owns a ton of market centers. He is one of the top instructors. He actually teaches on the one thing. Gene Rivers has created a business inside of the Keller Williams world by leveraging KW. He's absolutely incredible. So I highly encourage anybody and everybody on this call, find Gene Rivers, anything he teaches, anything he does, and tap into it. Okay, huge. So guys, now it's time to start working with sellers. Okay, we talked about database, we're rocking and rolling, we're making phone calls, we're sending out handwritten notes. Now it's time, to make that hard work pay off and start getting listings. So I want to talk about it. So pre-listing packet and a high impact listing presentation, that 1-2 punch we talked about, they will help you achieve a few things. One, it'll help you pre-qualify the seller to help understand their motivation. Okay, pre-qualify a seller to help understand their motivation. Let's talk about that for a second. When pre-qualifying a seller, what does that mean? Anybody jump into the chat, raise your hand, whatever, and then let's see who's going to talk first. What does it mean to pre-qualify a seller and understand their motivation? Awkward silence.
No, I'm here.
Oh, there she is. All right.
Pre-qualifying seller, I think, is extremely important step. Just like we have buyer's presentation. Don't assume what people looking for. Don't assume time. Don't assume that price is the most important thing. We have to hear it out. We have to know why they're doing what they're doing and how we can help them to do that.
Absolutely. So let's go a little deeper, Aida. So to understand why they're doing what they're doing, what might be some of the questions we would ask somebody to get that information?
Sure. So Ron, if we can sell your house in next 30 days, will that be a problem?
Yes, that's a serious problem. I can't leave town yet. What's that?
Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah, I mean, my son's in school, he plays sports in town, and if I leave in 30 days, that presents a problem. I'm actually not looking to leave for like 90 days.
Oh, okay, 90 days, all right. Other thing is, like, let's say if we cannot sell your house, even though it's kind of irrelevant for this market, but I still will ask you, if we will not sell your house in next 3 to 6 months, will that be a problem?
No, that won't be a problem at all. If I stay here, that's okay.
All right. And,
Awesome question, by the way. That was awesome, because now you're finding true motivation.
Mhm.
Love it.
And once you sell this, where are you planning to go? What is?
Yeah, we're looking to buy a bigger house. I'd prefer to stay in town if I could, but I just need a little bit more space. I'd like a bigger backyard.
I see. And what does it give you, the bigger space? Can you tell me a little bit more what it means for you and your family to have that bigger space?
Yeah, I can't stand my family. I need a home office to work out of where I don't see them in the kitchen. I'm just kidding, Aida, but I do. I need some more space. I need personal space. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if not having that space for, let's say, for another 6 months or so, like a year or so, will that make a huge difference in your thinking, in your lifestyle?
It's not going to kill me, but I'd prefer to do it sooner than later.
Okay.
Awesome questions, Aida.
To keep going.
No, this is awesome. Like I want some feedback. I hope everybody kind of sees where Aida was going. Like, she's asking all of these questions to understand, why am I moving? The next thing I want to say is, why is she even asking those questions? Because truth be told, we're in a hot market right now. So Aida, stay on with me. So now I'm going to flip the script. Okay. And we're going to talk pricing for a minute, even though today is not about pricing, but I'm just going to show you for qualification purposes what this is about. So Aida, I'm the seller, you're the agent, and I'm in an area where my house is probably, let's just hypothetically say it's worth $500,000. Okay. So go into pricing with me. Go ahead.
Sure.
However you
So
want.
I think that my opinion, the pricing is 500. That's what you're saying? Like, I think the CMA is 500.
Yeah, that's what that's your perspective. So how would you present that to me? Because now, again, we're walking through qualification purposes.
Right. So I was not prepared, so we're just taking this.
Yeah, it's cool.
Hey, Ron. So now that you feel comfortable with me and my company, what else is important for you about the sale of the property?
Money. I want obviously as much as I can get out of the sale.
Can you tell me a little bit more? Is there a specific debt that you need to pay? Is there like specific number that you need to get out of this transaction?
No, I mean, I just want to capitalize on the market. The market's hot right now. So I'm thinking like, I want to take advantage of it, right?
Hey,
so
I don't blame you.
If I can't get like 600 or something, I'm just, that's fine. I just won't move. I won't take an offer,
600. Okay. I see. Now, Ron, if worst case scenario, you will get 500 on your property cash today. Offer written.
Nah, that's crazy, Aida. This market's so hot. Why would I do that? Everyone's getting bidding wars, everything. Right. I mean, if I can't get 600, I don't want to go. Right.
No, I totally get it. Now, how honest do you want me to be with you, Ron?
Well, I mean, you could be as honest as, that's why we're doing this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when I'm helping people to achieve whatever they're looking for, I definitely want to help them, not other homes around. So if we will be putting your house on a market for 600,000, we will be helping your neighbors to sell faster. And that's not my goal. My goal is to help you. So let's look what's available for 600 on the market. Can we take a look at it?
Awesome comeback. That was good. So I'm gonna pivot off of that to roll through. So what you guys saw in that communication between Aida and myself as a seller is Aida is very well prepared for what that rebuttal is like, right? Where somebody has an objection to what they want versus what is. And so that was an awesome diversion by saying, let's go see what the other homes are. What I loved about that, and again, I want to stay off of pricing because that's not what today is about, but in qualifying somebody, right, is not just shutting them down in the qualification, but she heard for me, I shouldn't say for me, I should say for Aida as the agent, what she heard is somebody who only wants to capitalize on the market and is most likely incredibly unrealistic. Why is that important? because now you get to categorize them. If you guys remember last week, we talked about ABC and 1, 2, 3, right? Is somebody definitely going to work with me? Maybe they're going to work with me. I don't really know. Are they going to sell in 0 to 30 days, 3 to 6 months, 6 months past? So what does that look like? A person who's unrealistic in pricing, when you're pre-qualifying and asking these questions, you now know whether or not you should be spending 2 hours with them in advance, or if you should get to that point and move on. And as newer agents, all of you are like, that's crazy. I'm going to spend that time with him. You never know what's going to happen. That's a new agent mentality. That also comes from a position of scarcity. What I'm telling you is from experience, that person is going to suck up your time like you can't imagine. And you don't necessarily need to take every listing. Look at Fred laughing. He's had this conversation so many times as a manager. Okay, you don't need that because it's going to bog you down. And at the same time that you're bogged down with communication on taking an overpriced listing later on down the road, you could have got 4 more well-priced listings that you sold. Number one. Number two, in a market where everybody's house is selling and there's a for sale sign on the front lawn and it doesn't say under contract and it never says sold, imagine the public's view of you. That's your sign. Oh, Aida couldn't sell that house. I ain't calling her when it's time to sell. I mean, please, any dummy can sell a house in this market because that's what they're saying, right? So think about that. So this is why pre-qualification in that is so awesome. Love that. Thank you, Aida. Aida also asked a question about, what was important to them. You might find out that sometimes it's not just about the money. And this is where the pre-qualification comes in. This could be because maybe it's an estate sale. And maybe in the estate sale, what you find out is all they want is easy. That's all they want. The house I've had, let me give you guys some examples. I remember I had a house in Westwood. And in this house, when I opened up the front door, the gentleman who owned the home was quite elderly and he didn't make his way to the front door. So as I walked in, there was a path literally through the home. And as I walked through the path, everything was up here next to me. So he was clearly like a pretty rough hoarder. When I made my way and found him in the kitchen, and I started to have these conversations with him, what I found out was what was most important to him was that he didn't have to touch anything. There's always going to be a price associated with something like that, but it was up to me to be in tune with what was important to him. At that moment in time, preparing the house, staging, none of that is important to that person. So when I'm in that pre-qualification mode and I'm listening, right? The more I listen, the more I understand, the more I can give them exactly what they're looking for. So we've heard before, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. In the pre-qualification phase, speak half as much as you listen. Open up with questions and then be quiet. During that time, you're going to ask for their permission to take notes. And the reason you're doing that, A, you're asking for permission because you don't want it to look like you're being rude, but 2, you're showing that seller that you're paying full-blown attention and you're taking notes on everything that they're saying, okay? Very, very important. So again, this 1-2 punch, pre-listing packet, what does it do? It helps us understand their motivation. It also positions you as the expert. So what I can tell you is this, what we talk about in all of these classes in Ignite, I said it last week. Fred will tell you, I sat on a stage at CB and I told everybody what I did. And some of the people would come in and say, why would you do that? Why would you tell everybody what you do? Fred, what's the answer? Why would I tell everybody what I do? He's still muted. Hold on, Fred, you're muted. I gotta get, because I don't want my voice to
Here
say
we go. Okay.
All right, so let's open it up well, right? Fred, I stand in front of a stage. I tell everybody what I do. I tell them how I do it. I'll direct you to my own YouTube page and everything. Why would I do that?
Because about 90% of the people aren't going to do it.
It's that simple, right, bud?
It's that simple. It's that simple. And if you go back and talk to every top producer that does a presentation like you did, they'll probably all tell you the same thing, that they don't mind giving out that information because they know the majority of the people aren't going to do it.
Simple. So now let me tie these together. Okay. I said, thank you, Fred. I put that in there because I said, I want you to position yourself as the expert. So I know that I can go up on a stage and I can tell everybody what I do and how I do it, right? And the people on that other side view me as the expert in that position. Now, use that as the seller, okay? The seller is not having somebody else send in a pre-listing packet, for the most part, and filling out documents that they're now asking for in advance prior to a meeting. So the seller now looks at you as the expert because the other 3 agents did not do that. And I know this to be true because of how many listing appointments I go on the annual basis. Again, I saw him on here. Eric, if you're on here as I continue to roll through, I don't know if you're still on. I don't think I see him, but Eric Melnikoff is pretty awesome at that as well. And he could definitely talk about that. So that's going to help you in winning this listing. These other pieces, as you guys walk through with a pre-listing packet, that's one of the key elements that also helps you win the listing. Remember, I show up to take a listing. I don't go on a listing appointment. I expect to leave with the listing. Why? Because of everything that I did in advance. I expect to get that listing. Now, when I do all those things right, I also, at this point in time, it's almost like elevation, if you will, right? I started down low, and all of these things that I did elevated me in view, the agent, in the view, in the eye of the seller. And as you elevate more as that expert, you've now earned that right when it comes to pricing time, right? So because, good example, your kid goes to college, gets a 4-year degree, comes back, gets a job. They just spent 4 years studying on it. You just spent a boatload of money for them to do it. And now they just got their first job and they start talking. As a parent, 9 times out of 10, you're like, look, I get it, but you just got started. You need a little bit more time. You need a little bit more experience. We can't help but say that. Now, year 2 on the job and a promotion, and year 3 on the job and another promotion, we now view even our own children a little bit more elevated. They climbed that ladder in our eyes on how we view them. The same exact thing happens with the seller. So now when we start talking pricing, they're not looking at you as the agent that wants to price it low and get rid of it quick. No, they're actually looking at you as the professional. So I hope you can see why these pieces are so important that we're bringing to them. And the last thing is we set proper expectations in walking through this with our sellers. That pre-listing packet, which we're going to get into, goes into all of that. It's actually beautiful watching the whole thing happen. Bill and I, very often, our conversation was, did you send out the pre-listing packet? Because sometimes you'll have things that happen as quick. So the pre-listing packet didn't go out. And then you have the ones that did go out. What we have found in our experience is every time a pre-listing packet went out, it's virtually 100% success rate on getting the listing, number one. And number two, it would cut my 3-hour listing presentation into 45 minutes, which again, I told you guys before, time is the most valuable commodity as an agent. So if you can cut it down by doing these things in advance, by all means, please do it. Do you guys have your packet? Do you guys have on Win the Seller, the pre-listing packet? Do you guys have that handy? If we can maybe jump in the chat box real quick. And while you guys are doing that, I'm taking this sweater off because I'm dying.
Ron, Natalie Florio has a question. She said, what are other ways to respond to a potential seller on realistic pricing?
Natalie, you want to jump on?
Hi, yes.
Hey.
Hi.
Okay, so let's go a little deeper there. Go ahead and ask that question and give me some context.
Well, I love the example that Aida made on, telling the potential seller that you're only going to help the surrounding homes to sell. And I think that's genius. What are other ways to respond to an unrealistic seller where they have this price in their head and it's really off?
Okay. Natalie, do you own stock?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. So I'm going to assume, you're an Apple user. So
yeah.
I'm going to guess maybe you own Apple stock. So for this example, let's say you did, we can travel on that. So do you remember when you bought your Apple stock by any chance? You remember what you paid for it?
10 years ago, 1,000 a share.
Okay, you did good, right? I mean, great stock, paid dividends, everything. It's awesome.
Mhm.
So today, Apple's trading at about $127 a share. Now, I understand you want 1,000 a share. I mean, heck, that's what you paid for it. What do you think's going to happen when you call Chucky Schwab and tell him you want to sell that stock? You say, Chuck, I'm looking for 1,000 a share. What do you
Mhm.
think Chuck's going to say to you about selling your Apple stock?
Try to talk me out of it.
I actually think he's going to tell you, Natalie, it's selling at $124 a share. So that's exactly what you're going to get.
Mhm. Mhm.
It doesn't matter that you want $1,000 a share.
Right.
It's trading at $124 a share.
Right.
That's what you're going to get.
Right.
Your house is a stock. It
Okay.
trades at valuations based on current market conditions. It's no different than the stock market. So your 3-bed, 2.5 bath bi-level with no garage and no yard in your community is trading at $500,000. And by the way, that's in this current ridiculous market that we're in. So where everybody's overpaying, the overpayment is $500,000.
Right.
So what exactly would be our reason for selling your house for 20% more than everybody else?
Right.
There's no answer, right? There's no answer because I want it, right? It doesn't work that way because it trades. It's
Right.
valued based on current market conditions. So anytime I deal with that, I usually bring in stocks. And
Sure.
usually it helps the seller kind of understand it. And I think the last piece was how I brought you to the end about the current number. So yes, the market right now is insane. So the people who are paying 500, they're overpaying at that 500 number
Right.
already.
Right.
Okay. So, and again, it's Aida's was perfect, because she's spot on. All
Yeah.
we do is sell everybody else's property by pricing yours where it is.
Right.
So, okay.
Ron.
Anytime. Okay. Pre-listing packet. Let's go into that too, just so I understand. I got some questions on here. What's the pre-listing packet and is it standard for us? So let's take out standard. It's not standard. It's something that exists. If you'd like to use it, Abel, by all means you could. This class is talking about that pre-listing packet and then how you would use it in going forward. We're going to walk through it the rest of the class. I see a lot of no's. I'm guessing that means was your no answering his standard, or does that mean that you don't have your listing packet in front of you? Unmute yourself and just shout that out if you could.
No packet.
Okay. Thanks, Fred.
I don't have a packet in front of me either.
Okay. So that stinks because now my voice has to come in here. Let me see if I could
I
share
don't have
this.
the packet either.
Okay. Let me see. I don't know if Christina has the ability to pull it up. It's on page 14. Christina, you there?
Yeah, I'm looking at it, but it's kind of like I'll send it in the chat. Hold on.
Could you pull it up on the screen, Christina? Could you share your screen?
Yeah.
And then I'll just ask you to scroll up and down.
Yep.
It's on page 14.
Right here.
Go up one. Yeah, right there. Okay. All right. So everybody can see the screen, right? Good, a lot of head nods, good stuff. Okay, so here's the pre-listing packet, okay, guys? So this is specifically what we are talking about right now. For the sake of role-playing a little bit, like we just did prior, this one right here is when you've made contact with somebody, you've scheduled the listing appointment. So you're already going on Saturday at 3. That's already booked. But now in your conversation, you want to have a few moments of their time to fill this form out, right? So if you could see below, do you have about 5 minutes so I can ask you some very important questions before I come out to meet you? I would put into that spot, I respect you and your time more than anything else. So if we can spend about 5 or 10 minutes now, it'll probably save us about an hour later. Does that sound good to you? Everyone says yes. Okay. How did you hear about me? First question on this pre-listing packet. The reason this is important is because of your referral. So this, you'll see me tie everything up with a bow today. So why is that important? Because if Aida gave me the referral and I now met with John Smith and I now attract that listing, or not, even if I just got the listing appointment, I didn't get the listing yet, I'm sending out a handwritten note. And the handwritten note is going to go to Aida to say thank you for the referral. All I'm doing is I'm tightening up that relationship with my referral partner, stronger and stronger, whether it's local, maybe it's a South Jersey agent sending it up, maybe it's a New York City agent sending it in, or it could be somebody from out of state, or it could be somebody just from my sphere who's referring me. Why is that important? Because your job, guys, is to create raving fans. So if Aida is not even an agent, but I had worked with her potentially in the past, and she sends me a referral, and I send her a handwritten note immediately telling her I got the appointment, and then I give her a call with excitement that I got the listing, and I keep her in the loop. The next time somebody else talks real estate, look at her, she's loving me, loving me. She's screaming from the mountaintops, that's the person to call. That's what I'm trying to create here. So that's why in this pre-listing packet, every line is more important than you might think. How'd you hear about me? We talked before, Aida, where are you moving? Now we've set the stage for, are they a buyer and do we need to perform a buyer consultation as well? Are they leaving the state? And if they're leaving the state, I'm picking up a referral. Where are they moving to? I've got a great partner in Tucson, Arizona. I've got a great partner in Naples, Florida, whatever that case might be. Remember, they view you as the expert. Doesn't just have to be local, but your contacts are just as important. So now look, you just picked up an extra $1,000, $2,000 for doing nothing, but sending out a name, important in the pre-list. Okay, what's your motivation to move there? How soon do you need to be there? Aida was amazing on these. She scrolled through these. Aida, I almost feel like you were reading this. This is awesome. What would happen if it didn't sell? All right, so if you could scroll up a little bit for me, Christina, thank you, right there. Yeah, right there. So how much do you want to list your home for? I would never say that, just so you guys know. I would never in a million years say that, but here's what I would say. So at this point in time, what I ask the sellers is, hey guys, look, in the modern era that we're in with technology, pretty much everybody searches online for real estate. And if you guys are talking to me right now, you probably have been doing the same. So just for the sake of understanding, what do you think your home might be worth right now? So the reason I prepped that the way that I did is because for me, and the way Aida was talking before about the 500 and the 600, I've set this expectation for when I get there. And now when I get there, I know if I've got a big challenge on my hands or if I actually have an easier flow into me giving them what I believe is the listing price. I'll stop here for an example. Bill and I were on a listing appointment in Ramsey last week. Bill was the lead agent on it when we together sold this home to him in 2013. And what I had done was I called Bill. I said, hey, bud, I just want to let you know, I'm running through all the numbers. I said, everything I'm looking at says 450 to 475 on this house. That's what I'm seeing. A lot of the houses in Ramsey sell for more, but that's what this one is looking at right now. When I got there, I did a trend analysis. We'll talk offline what that looks like. I love trend analysis. Love. I will share that with all of you. It's gold for me in my listing presentations. So I put together this trend analysis, ran through all the numbers, and I said, based on the trend analysis, looks like your home is right around, I'll stop right there. I asked her this question prior. I said, Alex, based on today's technology, everyone always checks out what their house is worth. I assume you have done the same. What do you think your house might be worth today? And Alex said 425. Now that made my delivery so easy because my trend analysis exact number was 457,000. So when I told Bill it was between 450 and 475, but I have somebody who is set with an expectation of 425, 450 as a list price suggestion looks like a hero, right? She was totally happy with that. So the delivery was super, super easy. So that's why that line right there asking what they think their value might be in the pre-listing packet is so important. Okay, so I don't ask how much do you want to list your house for? How much do you owe on the property? This is less important today than it was 8, 9, 10 years ago when everybody was a short sale, because you needed to know in advance what you were dealing with. Today, when we ask that question, we always follow it up with a statement, because if I just said, hey, what do you owe on your property? It actually comes across terrible. Like, I know myself as a consumer, I'd be like, why is that important to you? Right? Why are you even asking me that question? Today, when I ask it, I basically say, what I'm trying to do is put together a net proceed sheet. And there's a lot of things that come out of a home sale. So I want to make sure you understand exactly what you can, or at least very close to what you can expect at the closing. Does that sound good to you? Always close it up with that, right? Does that make sense to you? And then you'll get that answer. I ask it that way, guys. I frame it that way because it is important. Because I now will be able to work towards other objections when I get there. And here's one for you, okay? So if I ask you, what is it that you owe on that property? And you told me I owe $350,000. When I do the research and I see that you bought that house for $300,000, okay? Market was low, market went up, you refinanced, you took your equity out. When I meet with you and you start telling me how much you need to pull out of a house, I'm already prepped and ready because I know you already took it out. So now my verbiage, when I talk to them and they say, no, I need this, I'm able to say, you already took it. You actually already have that. No, I don't have that. No, you do have it. You refinanced your house and you took $50,000 of that equity out. So in essence, you already have that money. So it just, for me, it's the mindset when I'm going to be meeting with them, what I can expect as an objection. So do you have any questions before we meet? Is it basic? Will all decision makers be there? So we back up and I'll ask the question is, who owns the home, right? So I'm just scrolling through here. Kyle Morris, go ahead and unmute yourself, bro. Let's have conversation. So this is what it's going to sound like. Okay. If Kyle was the seller and I'm having this pre-listing questionnaire packet going on my end, I'm filling it out and I'm having a conversation with him. I want you guys to understand why and how that looks. So Kyle, are you the only owner on that home?
Yes, that would be me.
You are. Okay, awesome. And Kyle, look, I don't know if you're married or not, but I always try to understand like the full gamut of who's in the home. Are you married? Do you have a family?
No, I'm not married. Single.
Okay, single guy. Awesome. So we're done. All right, we're done here because now I know there's no one else in the decision-making process. Even if Kyle said to me that he was the only owner on the home, but then he said he's married, I am 100% going to make sure that his spouse is going to be there at that meeting. Why? Kyle, why would I want to make sure that your spouse is there?
Because she has a say in the sale of the house.
Keep going. What else? Why else would that be important to me as a listing agent?
Why else? Because she's going to make decisions that are important for you when setting things like the price or things along those lines.
So Kyle, the most important reason is her signature. If I'm going to take a listing. I'm not going on a listing appointment. I'm going to take a listing. So if your spouse isn't there, most likely, Kyle, you're not signing. You're not signing until you go and talk with your spouse. So I want your spouse there so that we have that conversation. And even if it wasn't her signature, I want her thumbs up. I want her hand on her husband's hand or whatever, right? Spouse's hand on spouse's hand. Signing, right? Sign this. This is our guy. This is who we're listing with. This is our girl. This is who we're listing with. So you see why it's so important to have those decision makers present, because I plan on leaving with a signed agreement. Okay?
Yep.
Awesome. So guys, you see right below number 11, it says, just so you know, our meeting will take between X and X on the minutes. This is an awesome expectation. If you don't do that, you're liable to have a 3-hour listing appointment. And while that's great in some cases, right? There's quality versus quantity. We have to weigh in there. There's going to be moments where we go deep into awesome conversation and we build rapport. All that is good. So I'm never going to take that away, especially me, right? Like I'm the guy that I'll talk to you for 72 straight hours. I don't care, right? We'll hug, we'll kiss, we'll cook. It's all going to be great when we're all done. But it's a business, right? And I'm going to try to set multiple listing appointments for those days, that particular day, whatever. You're going to have other things to do. So by setting that as an expectation, you're letting the people know that this is roughly how long it will take, and it's not an open window. So believe it or not, guys, that's really an important one. Christina, let's scroll up to see if there's another one there. Well, I just talked about saving time. Keep going, one more. Okay. All right, you can pull that off, Christina. You can stop sharing. I want to see if there was another one on there for it. Okay. All right. So, guys, the pre-listing packet, just so you guys know, and this is where it's so difficult when you're in this Zoom setting, right? Like we're supposed to be playing with this thing back and forth with each other in a live class, but it's available to you guys through KW Connect. Christina, if there's a way that you could pop a link into the chat so everyone has easy access, that would be awesome. There it is. Who's better than you? Thank you. Thank you. Because I definitely like walking through that. Next one. So next page talks about.
Can I interrupt you for a second? I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
So Fred asked this question, and I want to know the answer too. And he asked, do you send it out like via email or mail? Like, which way do you prefer to get it out to the seller before going on the appointment?
I personally like to fill mine out over the phone. I like to be on a call with them and ask them questions. Other people have a full-blown packet that they send out with a return stamped envelope so that it comes back to them that way.
Okay.
A third way you could do, Caitlin, if you want to consider it is, FaceTime is always important. So you could actually say, hey, I'm going to drop off this pre-listing packet, fill it out at your leisure. What that does is it gives you two opportunities. Once when you drop it off, once when you pick it up for FaceTime.
Okay.
Totally up to you. Go with what your comfort level is.
Thank you.
Of course, absolutely.
Ron, can I add something to the questions that you were going through?
Please, yeah.
And if you disagree, obviously, let me know. I also like to ask them as my last question, if what I say makes sense for you and you feel 100% comfortable and confident that I'm the right agent for the job, is there any reason why we cannot work together today?
It's a super common closing statement, right? And so, Aida, what did we say before? You have to ask for the business.
Yeah.
That's you right there asking for the business. Aida, let me say this too. Aida is one of those people, because I've heard her on the phones. Aida is probably one of the, and if anybody else has worked with her, please jump in, best examples of somebody who asks for the business. That's why you just jumped in and said that, because that's second nature to you. Am I right? Come on, don't be so humble. Be honest. Aida, are you on mute? Unmute yourself. Yeah? All right. Aida, you remember when we first opened up Keller Williams Prosperity and we had all the call sessions downstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was right next to you. So I speak from the experience of listening to you. I heard it all. This isn't fluff. I'm telling you right now, Aida is incredible at closing and asking for that business. So as your launch coach, tap into that resource. It's huge. Thanks, Aida. That was awesome. So guys, when you're working with your seller, when you're working through the pre-qualification process, when you are asking all the necessary questions in order to get the listing, let me ask right now, and anybody can jump on, what is the most important thing at that moment in time? Working through pre-qualification or sitting in front of a seller at a listing appointment, what is most important?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
During a pre-qualification on the phone or present in person with the listing appointment, you and the seller, what is most important at either one of those times? What is most important? Throw it in the chat or unmute yourself.
Pre-qualification.
Keep going.
because that's where you'll set the expectations and then also discover the most important things. Are they talking to other agents? You know, where they're at in the process.
Keep going, because to me, that's not the most important thing. So keep going. Those are all important, Joe. They're not the most important.
Connecting with the seller.
Connecting with who?
The seller.
Why is that important?
Because you're making them comfortable. They like the way they feel around, or with you, and
People work with people they like.
All day long, and who they trust. So to tie that up, guys, what's most important? The seller. The seller. That's the most important thing, person. That's it. The seller. It's all about the seller, not me. Okay, not me. I'm secondary. My expertise, how many home sales I've had, how big our company is, all of it, secondary. When Bill and I work through our listing presentation, we talk about Keller Williams being number one, largest company, all statistical categories, most agents, most sales, most volume, whole 9 yards. Number one training company and training magazine across all platforms. That's all noise until you tie it back to the seller. Why is that important to them? The seller is absolutely, positively the most important person, thing, topic, subject, anything during this process. Log that into your memory bank and never forget it. They are number one. So there's a guide to selling your home. So just a couple of them I'll speak to right now. Taking the time to understand the wants and needs. I even talked about this so well. Joe, you just talked about it in the pre-qual. Their expectations, answering their questions, returning their phone calls and emails in a timely fashion, and being honest with them all the time. So this is very important for newer agents. Okay, guys? I remember when Bill and I first got licensed, we worked at a RE/MAX office in Bloomingdale. And I will never forget listening, and I'd be like, dude, did you just hear that? Like the way that person talked to that client? And it's because I was new, right? So I was definitely a little bit like gun shy on it. Well, the way they spoke, now in hindsight, the way they spoke was just honest. It didn't sound super pretty. I might want to tie it up with some sugar on top, but it was honesty. So let me give you guys a really awesome example. So let's say we go to the listing. I did the pre-listing packet, right, Joe? I already know what is important to them. I know I've set my expectations. I did it all, but I never saw the house. Now I walk in. Now it's the listing appointment. Remember, I plan on leaving with a signature, and I'm there, and it smells like the local dump. Okay, it could happen, right? So how then at that moment in time, how do you deliver that honestly to somebody? Because again, I just said that the seller's most important to me, and I'm always going to be honest with them. So if that's the case, how do I handle that? These are the things that you all need to be prepared for. And we're going to go into that a little bit deeper next. And I would imagine Eric Melnikoff is now on with us. I'd imagine some other people have witnessed that like I have, where I walked in and I wanted to walk out. I wanted to throw up. The place was disgusting. It's a complete mess. I mean, I had one where the seller asked me to take my shoes off, which I take my shoes off in my house. But when I took my shoes off, I almost walked out of my socks because the house was so dirty. My socks stuck to the ground. Okay. Have that. Yeah. So now you have to have that conversation. We'll get into that and I'll tell you guys exactly how I do that tastefully. So again, what else is about them? I want to help them obtain the highest price possible. I want to sell your house for the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the least amount of stress. That's our goal. Most amount of money, least amount of time, least amount of stress. That's our goal. And trust me, it's their goal as well. So again, just tying everything back, it's all about them. It's all about them. And when I tell them what I'm going to do as a listing agent, I'm actually going to go through the litany. There is, Christina, I don't know if you have access to it, but in the home selling guide, I believe that's on KW Connect, it goes through like all the different pieces that are necessary in the process of selling your home. It's a novel, and it's a novel strategically because the seller needs to understand you're not there to put just a sign in the ground. You've got an incredible amount of work to do And you want to make sure that they understand you have an incredible amount of work to do. That's going to justify your value, and it's going to help them understand why they're hiring you as their professional. Any questions on that so far? Does anybody want to jump in, ask questions, anything at all? And if not, that's fine. I don't want to lag. I don't want to waste time. Christina, could you share the page just where you were again? It's on page 17. It's getting ready to list. If you can go ahead and share the screen for everybody.
1 second.
Okay. What we're gonna do here, guys, is I'm gonna choose some people to read a couple of these lines and then have a conversation about it. So basically there's 5 factors that affect the value of a property. Okay, guys. So again, I'm careful. It's so hard not to get into pricing, but it's such a major part, obviously, of winning the seller. And I think Sean Annan might be talking about pricing in the next class, if I'm correct. You almost there, Christina?
Yeah, 17, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready to share.
This one. Oh, wait. This one?
Yep. Getting ready to list.
Yep.
Okay. 5 factors that affect the value of the property. Let me grab somebody who hasn't said anything yet today. Anybody? Pedro Maria, I'm looking at you right now. That's it. Why don't you guys jump on? I want you to start at the top where it says get ready to list, and then read just through number 1, and then we'll talk.
Get ready to list. What will it sell for? The market tells us how much your home is worth. I will advise you on pricing after my thorough analysis of your property compared to the market. And with my recommendation, you will make the final decision. 5 factors affecting the value of your property. Number 1, recent sales. Comparable homes in the area that have recently sold are how buyers and their agents will determine the fair market value for your home.
Okay, so it's pretty cut and dry right there, right? About the recent sales. We talked about this before with the 500 and the 600, and Aida was talking about how we would list it higher and then we would just sell everybody else's home. So while there's no crystal ball in real estate, you do have good, solid data that you work with. And so when you talk about recent sales, this is going to make your seller feel much more comfortable because it's not you and your sole opinion. It is based on the actual market data. Let me just call a quick timeout here. For those of you newer in the industry, this is why touring properties is so important. Many years ago, there's probably nobody better than Fred on this call to talk about the caravans that we used to take, right, Fred? And once a week, we would get out there and we would tour the office's new listings. Look, it's changed. I get it. However, as a new agent, that should be something that's an old standby that you guys should jump on. Why? 2 reasons. 1, know your market. And no, your market is not on the computer screen. It's not. Because when you walk inside of a home will breathe and behave very differently in person than it does on screen. I'll give you a great example. Ronnie, I don't understand that house at 123 Main Street. It's priced so well. How come it didn't sell? Now it's time for me to get in there and talk with them. Well, actually, there's a stream that runs through the backyard, but you really can't see it. And then 400 yards away, there's a train, and the train actually makes noise. I happened to be there one day when it went through, and it's incredibly loud. Blah, 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 blah. You can go on to any kind of a topic you want to. There's a terrible slope in the backyard. Everything's coming down to the house, whatever. But you only know that by being at the house. So tour the market, tour the inventory, understand what you're talking about so that, number 2, when you're on a listing presentation with somebody and you plan on leaving with that listing and you now show them the recent sales, you get to say, oh, I remember 123 Main Street because now there's negatives and there's positives, and you need to be prepared with all of them. Okay, that's why it's so important. Okay, Pedro, keep going, buddy. Number 2.
Got it. Location. Location is one of the most important factors in determining the value of your property.
Could you disagree with that?
Absolutely not.
Not at all. Not at
Not
all.
at all. Yeah.
My wife, we sold my last house in September of 2017, I think. Yeah, September 2017. And I sold that house for $825. And my wife's like, that's crazy. We should get more. I said, you're right. We should totally get more, but we're not gonna. Because if we were 2 houses down off of the main road and not on the main road, we'd get more. But we're not because we're on the main road. Period. The end. Done. Right? So I can sit here and cry about it all day long, but I'm not gonna. It is what it is. Right? If the house has the railroad track behind it, it's gonna get a certain dollar amount. Location, location, location. And let me also say, because Caitlin's on this, Caitlin lives on the boulevard. I live on the boulevard. I love living on the boulevard. I love it so much that I sold my last house on the boulevard and built another one on the boulevard. I love it. I do. I absolutely love it. So people will say, oh, that's crazy. Why would you do it? Because it's for me. I love it. And someday when I sell it, the next person that doesn't mind or absolutely loves living on the boulevard, that's who my buyer is going to be. It's okay. I'm saying this to you guys now because it's important when you're in front of a seller not to only concentrate on, hey, you're on the boulevard, you're going to get less money, right? Because you just set that negativity with them. Absolutely not. So I'm going to set proper expectations. Look, I can't get this because I'm on the boulevard, but I can't get this. And I guarantee someone's going to pay it. Okay? Just twist it so it sounds right. Keep going. Number 3.
Number 3, condition. The condition of the property affects the price and the speed of the sale. Prospective buyers often make purchases based on emotion, so first impressions are important. I'll advise you in optimizing the physical appearance of your home to maximize the buyer's perception of value.
All day long. It's one of my favorites. When I was in Weichert, I was in the Weichert office in Franklin Lakes and then in Pompton Plains. This girl, Michelle, would say to me, I always know when it's one of your listings. She goes, I can tell right away before I even scroll down to see who the listing agent is. She goes, I know it's one of yours. Because this comes back to the honesty. This comes back to my feet sticking to someone's floor. This comes back to their house smelling like the local dump. Okay. I'm speaking very blunt with you guys, right? When I'm in that house, my job is to help that seller understand in the most positive way, coated with sugar on top, those negativities. And I'm now going to change that condition for them, right? I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for them. If I didn't care about who's most important, the seller, well, who cares? Leave it just the way it is. I'll sell your house for 400 grand, no problem. Or I'm going to be very honest and walk through these pieces of condition. And now I'm going to sell their house for 500,000. And every single time I'm on a listing presentation, every single time I do a walkthrough, I will never turn away from those tough conversations. Okay. And let me give you guys a really cool example. Does anybody here have cats or dogs? Anybody? Nods. Yes. Give me some. Fred, I got a hand up. When you have an animal in your home, the animal will very likely have an odor. I'm not saying it's bad either, by the way. So let me be really careful there. Okay. But it's still the animal. I mean, heck, if you walk into my house, Lori has I don't remember the name of it is, but it's some kind of an odor releasing thing from the one hotel in Miami Bill got us hooked on. I don't even smell it anymore. But if you walk in my house, you're definitely going to smell that. There's no doubt about it. If you walk into somebody's house who cooks with curry, it's going to smell. That's a very strong smell. But if you live there, you don't smell it anymore. You're totally used to it. Ask somebody who trains horses if they smell manure. They don't, right? I mean, so bad to the point, I used to own a deli and there was a horse farm down the street. When they walked in, the minute the door opened, I gagged and I smelled manure. That's crazy, right?
You're not muted.
So it's the same thing here now with their property is when they have their pet, so right back to it, I'm going to coat it with sugar, and just say, look, Fred, I just want to let you know, I personally, I don't have pets. Okay. You have your dog here, which, by the way, awesome dog, love your dog, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead and play into that. All that stuff is fine. I could smell dog when I walk in the house, and that's not a strike. I'm just being honest with you. And if I didn't tell you that now, that's going to heavily affect your value later on when I usher in all these buyers. So as we get ready to prepare your home, I just want you to be mindful of the fact that maybe, just maybe we should shampoo the carpets. Maybe we should buff the floors, because we all know that the oils from a dog, they release themselves from rubbing on the floor. So Fred, you live here. So trust me, this is not a strike against you. This is just what happens quite often. So if I could either give you a professional cleaning company. I'd be happy to put you in touch with them. If maybe we talked about getting the dog groomed prior to the open house, just to minimize what that odor could be that's coming from the dog, I think that would be all prepared for that launch. It sounds so much better than, dude, was your dog out in the rain? It stinks in here, even though that's what's going on inside my head, right? Like that's what I smelled when I walked in. But you would never say that. So you coat it with sugar. It sounds really good, but you were honest with them. So condition is very important. And then the next piece of conditioning is everyone's got a different budget. So I'm gonna try to assess when I talk about this condition at this time is if I could present you with a few ideas that could return you a great response from the buyers by way of a higher price point, what would you be willing to spend in the ideas that I give you? And that person might say, nothing. I'm not spending a dime. That person might say, it depends on what you tell me. And then guys, so let me speak honesty, okay? Bill and I walked into a house, and the master bedroom was terrible, and the rest of the house was amazing. Terrible master bed and master bath, absolutely horrendous. When we told them, we're like, I can't list your house for the money you want in that condition. So either you have to adjust your list price, or you have to renovate this. New master bedroom, new master bath, all new decor, the whole 9 yards. Sold that house to the first person that we ushered into that home. It works. So you have to be honest up front and find out. Their appetite for investment into their home was much greater than what many other people would truly be willing to sell. That said, you got to make sure your people understand $2,500 could be a $20,000 return. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Paint, declutter, carpet, cleaning. I had one recently, and it was the same situation, right? The house just really wasn't super clean. I had a professional cleaning company come in the day before the open house. The day before. Had a ton of people, ton of offers. Trust me, it worked out perfectly. And the positioning of that was, hey, I'd like this thing to be shining on day one. I've met this person. I've been in their company a ton of times. You're insanely busy. If you want to do it yourself, that's totally fine. But I have an amazing cleaning crew if you wanted to hire them. It just came across so much nicer that way without me saying the house needed to be cleaned. Okay. Pedro, jump on number 4. Do number 4 and 5 together, buddy.
You bet. Number 4, competition. Prospective buyers are going to compare your property, both the condition and the price, to other active listings in and around your neighborhood. In order to get buyers' attention away from your competition and focus on your home, we will be competitive by properly pricing and staging your home. Timing. Property values are affected by the current real estate market. Because we can't manipulate the market, we'll collaborate on a pricing and marketing strategy that will take advantage of the first 30 days your property is listed. It's the window of opportunity when buyers and their agents discover your property and are most likely to visit and make offers.
Thank you, buddy. All right, guys, these were 5 factors that affect the value of the property: recent sales, location, condition, competition, and timing. Recent sales, location, condition, competition, and timing. What do you control? 5 factors. What do you control, or what can the seller control?
Condition.
Anybody could jump on here.
Condition,
Condition.
Price and
Condition.
condition.
price,
Price wasn't part of these yet.
And the timing?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
5 things: recent sales, location, condition, competition, timing. What do we control? Condition was 1.
And timing.
Timing.
What's that?
And timing.
Timing.
And timing. So the timing, so I appreciate you guys saying that, because when you look at timing on this one, it really talks about the timing of the rest of the market, right? However, you are the expert. So when do you inject that property into the market? You get to control that with them. So Eric Melnikoff is on right now. Eric, it is March 1st. In another month, we would expect a lot more inventory, right? How much are we talking to our sellers right now about timing and getting them on the market in the next 2 to 3 weeks?
Vigorously.
You're talking to a guy who concentrates strictly on listings, guys. Timing is so important. When you know you're approaching a time frame where the market is supposed to be flooded with inventory, do you want to be a part of the rest of that inventory, or do you want to be ahead of it? Control that timing when you get in. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I just came back from a walkthrough we signed 3 weeks ago. Tenants finally moved out. The decision is, do we throw granite and paint the cabinets, or do we just get it on? You know, it's a $208,000 little condo. Will the $6,000 in investment really make that much more money? But more importantly, it'll put you in the dead smack in the middle of like this rush of all these listings coming on. So while money might have a little bit of a factor on whether or not we should do it, moreover, it's going to be, how long is it going to take to get a new piece of stone on that countertop and to get the cabinets back from the shop where the guy's got to, so it's like, you know what, we'll probably end up just saying, you know what, just go on the market. You know,
Right.
Better to beat the rush.
Absolutely. Thanks, brother. Now, to that point, guys, if Eric and I had the same conversation 3 weeks ago and we had the time, we would both agree, I want the cabinets painted, I want the granite on there, and I want to beat the market with the flood of inventory. Right, Eric?
Yeah.
If we
Timing's
could.
the key to life.
Yeah, amen to that, brother. So next slide down, guys, talks about pricing. So again, I'm going to be so careful because of Sean Annan is working on pricing, but I love this. I absolutely love talking pricing when it comes to listings. Okay. So what you'll see in this one here, this is through Ignite, and what KW talks about is they talk about pricing it below the market, at the market, or above the market. And what you'll see in this is they say a well-priced home creates interest, attracts buyers, generates showings, and produces offers all very quickly. A well-priced home. And then you have the underpriced home and the overpriced home. So let me just spend a couple of minutes right there in the underpriced home. Right now, guys, in this current market that we're in, I'm going to disagree with the screen, where priced at market value is absolutely not where I want to be at all. Okay. And so I know I'm going against what's on the screen, but I believe wholeheartedly in this. So let's talk about it. What they say about an underpriced home is that some people might overlook it. They might think that there's something wrong with it. Why is it priced so low? So to be fair, if I have a $500,000 home, I don't want to price it at $400,000, because that's probably going to be, you know, you are going to get that. You are going to get people to say there must be something incredibly wrong with this. I'm just going in another direction. But if you use percentages, if I have a house that's worth $500,000 and I know it's worth $500,000, I'm actually looking to be priced at least $25,000 less than that in this market right now. And I'll give you guys great examples. Again, everything I talk to you guys, I want to give you examples because I don't just want it to be my voice speaking. I want it to be what actually happens. Okay. Yesterday, we had 2 new listing open houses. We had a townhouse in Morristown, and the townhouse in Morristown should have been listed at about $499, and I would have loved it capped at 5.25. She listed it for $550. We had 11 groups through. I got one offer so far for $25,000 under asking, which is ridiculous in this market. Pricing strategies, listen to it. The other property was in Wayne, Cape Cod. I told them to list it at $375. They asked me just before we went live, hey, Ronnie, the market's hot. You think we could pinch out another 10 grand? I'd like to list it at $385. I said, I highly recommend against that. I said, if we list it for $375, I think I'm going to pinch out a whole heck of a lot more than that. They said, okay, we trust you. Listed that house for $375. We had 41 groups through the open house, not 11. I've got 36 scheduled showings between yesterday after the open house through tomorrow. I have 5 written offers, which doesn't matter because everybody said they're waiting because they all know that we're going to do a highest and best. And I'll probably pinch $50,000 over asking, somewhere in that range when it's all over, because that's how it works. So when I look at this and they say at market value, I disagree in this market, right? I'm being very specific, guys. As the market shifts, we will shift. And we'll have another class and we'll talk about that at that time. Another example was 21 Canterbury. It was a townhouse that no doubt comped at 515. Guys, it's a townhouse. They're all the same in the community. They're identical. It comped out at 515. That's it. We listed it for $499, 31 groups of people, sold that house for $61,000 over asking, got 561. Pricing strategy is so important, and you need utter confidence when you're talking with your people and you get this listing. Do not let them bully you and push you around because they want more because the market is hot. That will blow up in their face and they will not get what you want them to get and what they're expecting at all. Eric, I would love to have you jump in on that if you could, man, because I know you're out there with me all the time. So thoughts on that?
I'm exactly the same way. You know, and that was the what spurred these conversations with agents about pricing over the last several weeks. I've been having that Wednesdays at 1 o'clock, because I've always been the person that if we think the home is valued around 500, price it around 3 to 5% below, which is what you said. Ironically enough, you know, while you were talking about that 375 listing, I put on my thing here, 430 as my guesstimated price.
Love it.
Could be more, it could be a little less, but you know, that's what happens. So I see it now. The only caveat I have to the whole, because I'm a value priced listing agent, is that it seems that the $500,000 listing that I'm saying, you know, FSBO, I'm using an actual example, $500,000 FSBO. I go in there, I'm like, I'm going to gift them 465. You know, let's put it on at 465, and you know, maybe we won't have to do price reductions. I'm thinking it's overpriced. Well, I didn't take the listing. The agent who told them, okay, we'll list it at 500, took the listing and got it sold in like a week, which tells me they probably got asking or really, really close to it. So I agree 1,000% with what you're saying, Ron. And yet in the market, it seems that people are able to, I don't want to say make me move price, but somewhere between what we're telling them and that crazy make me move price up here, they're able to put it on and still get the result. I'm very, I'm on the fence, you know, right now.
All right, so let's expand on that a little bit. Phenomenal point, and it's accurate. That being said, the way to get your seller the most amount of money is by having more bodies come through their front door. With a list price in this case of 500,000, this many buyers are coming through the front door. If they were to give Eric the listing and Eric listed it at 460, this many people came through the front door. Guys, what I just gave you as an example, 11 groups of people in Morristown, 41 groups of people in Wayne. Percentages will never lie. Numbers will never lie. So Eric is spot on. People are getting more money now than they're supposed to. There's no doubt about it. And at the same time, downward pressure on an asking price will always increase the opportunity and the chances of getting into a full-blown bidding war. And that 500 could have been 525. Would you agree, Eric?
Yep, absolutely.
No doubt about it.
We have it. I'll give you one last example because it's not about, but so we had a property in Elmwood Park that expired at 429. 429 started at 435, 439, went down to 429. Seller wanted like 415, and the agent went in for another reduction at 429 down to 419. He goes, well, if I go to 419, I got no room. He let it expire. Good for him. I took the listing at 398.
Yeah, I love it. Go ahead.
But it's out 425 in a week.
Yes. And he would have only got 415 on his best day if he continued with that trajectory.
Continue to jump, continue to drop, continue to drop. Maybe eventually someone goes in and gives him his price when he hits that threshold. And the best thing about it is he's a repeat, he's looking to invest property because he loves us so much. He's like, that lady couldn't get 4.25 with 429 as the asking price. You got it at 385, 398 rather. So the exact opposite. You flipped it on its back.
I love it because that's how it works.
That's
it's
how it
simple.
works.
That's just the way it works. When someone wants to tell you otherwise, being as nice as you can, that's an old school mentality, right? I listed and sold my cousin's house this year and in 2020. And my uncle said, listen, I disagree. You should list it at this. I said, Uncle John, every ounce of respect. Everything you're saying is exactly the way real estate was done 35 years ago. You're not wrong. Today, it's very different. And I got $25,000 more than he wanted me to list the house for, just because I listed it where I was supposed to list it. It's the way that it works. Trust me when I tell you. So guys, you got to go with confidence. You have to know your market. You see, guys, I'm in this experience where I'm giving you examples. Eric's giving you examples. You guys need to study the market so that when you have your listing opportunity, you're speaking the exact same way I'm speaking. I don't care if it wasn't your listing. Okay, it doesn't matter. You need to know the market. 123 Main Street listed for $499 and got $550, right? 456 Main Street, oh man, they were overpriced at $550. They only sold for $525. So know this so that you can speak to it. Eric, to your point, there's a house on Mountain Ave in Pompton Plains that a girl on my team just got an agreed upon deal on, and I cannot believe it. There's not a snowball's chance in hell this house is supposed to sell at this number. It's absolutely mind-blowing. That is so indicative of the market that we're currently in.
It's the market.
It's absolutely incredible. It's incredible.
You talk about the townhomes being pretty much the same. We listed a townhome, and when I went in for the listing, the lady, she said, well, I want 379. And I'm like, I did my math, and I'm like, well, 350 was more like the price I was going to go in at. I'm like, I don't see it. Talk to me. How do you come up with that? She goes, well, it's very easy. My neighbor who's got the same unit I have, a little bit nicer, they went on at 379. They're under contract in 1 week. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I don't see it. I don't see it. And I gave pushback. I felt I had the right to give the pushback respectfully. Mm-hmm. And I went through it and I said, look, we could do that. We could do that. And that's an option. But before we do that, let's explore what might happen. We don't know what they sold out. Sold that, and it's not closed yet. And here's my experience. And I shared her. She listened. We went on a 348, 880. When the dust settled, the guy who went on at 379, who had real hardwood floors, we had the particle board garbage. The 379 sold for 350 something. We listed at 348, sold for 395.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. I love it.
It's really good, a good example of how like properties don't always perform, and it's all about how, like Ronnie said, to Ronnie's point, the number that you're going to get will largely be determined by the amount of people who come through that door.
Absolutely.
And if we can condense it into one weekend or 1 week, and you get 40, 50 people versus 11 or 12, you're bound to get 4 or more offers. You know, what's it like? Every 12 or 13 people, you might get an offer.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that. You know,
right now even more. So the key to that, to piggyback on that example right there about the people through the front door and your chances of increasing on the bidding war, it's like this, guys. The lower the price, the more people walk through the front door, and reason will exit the back door. Okay? The lower the price, the more people will enter the front door, and reason will exit the back door. Okay? Somebody says, I've got a $500,000 budget, and they come into that house that's listed for $475, just whatever, I'm throwing it out there. And there's 40 people at that open house. Okay? And I'll give you my example, right? Personally, not a live example, but what would occur in my life. I'd go to bed that night, and as much as I would want to go to sleep, Lori would be jabbing me. I really like that house. I really love the backyard. What'd you think? But you're laughing. Look at my ladies on here laughing. Because it's true. This is what happens in real estate. It's so emotional. That's where reason exits the back door. I will never get reason to exit the back door if I don't get enough people walking through the front door. So this is why understanding pricing is so important. Christina, I know there's a couple of pages in here that I'm actually going to kind of jump over because we talked about staging and we talked about the condition of the home a little bit. I'd like to jump into the next video where it's going to show Josh Bath sharing a little bit about his listing presentation. Okay. And then when that's over, guys, we'll talk a little bit about my listing presentation, what we do. We'll tie these two together. So if you could go ahead and share your screen and get that video rocking.
Yep, let me pull it up.
Thank you. Can anybody hear? Am I the only one who can't hear it?
I can't hear you.
I can't hear it either.
Yeah, we're not getting it. If you could bring it back to the beginning and just see if you can get that volume rocking. No sound.
No.
It worked on the first video. Christina, are you muted by chance? And if that could be the connection?
Let me see, hold on.
Second part is presentation.
There you go.
And the third.
Thank you.
I can hear it now.
Hi, I'm Josh Bath from Vancouver, Canada. I'm with Keller Williams for 8 years and been selling real estate for 18 years. Now I'm going to walk you through my listing presentation, and it's a 3-step process. First part is preparation, second part is presentation, and the third part is follow-up. A lot of my listings come by way of referral and repeat. And so when the call comes in and they want me to come over and list their home, I have a conversation about what their needs are. What exactly is it you're looking to do? Are you moving up? Are you moving down? I have them tell me exactly what the reasons are that they're selling for. I get a real sense of what direction that they want to go. One of the things that we've done to make my appointment setting a little easier is we've time blocked. We follow what Gary says. He says time block everything that you do. And we've time blocked our slots in advance for listing appointments. Every day, Monday to Friday,
We have a slot available at 4 o'clock and a second slot available at 5:30. So I've got a potential of 10 listing appointments Monday to Friday. That makes my life a lot easier because I'm able to time block my lead generation first thing in the morning and not have my day so loose and scattered. So I'm trying to scramble on where to put a listing appointment. What we do now in our team is we've decided to go paperless with our evaluations, our CMAs. So instead of printing off paper, what we'll do is we'll take it on the computer and convert it to PDF, mark it up with a highlighter from there on the computer, and then create an email from that, email that package off to our client prior to going out to their home to list it. What I do when I go on a listing presentation is I meet the sellers at the door and I have them take me on a tour of the property. During that time, I'm actually asking them to tell me again, to recap again, what their motivation is for selling. So I'm getting them more comfortable with them moving out of their house is what I'm doing. That usually takes about 5 minutes. And when we're done there, we transition right over to the kitchen table. We'll talk about the market, the evaluation itself, and that in itself is about 15 minutes. Once we've agreed upon a price that we're going to list at, we'll sign a listing contract. They sign the initial 3-page contract. They sign the property disclosure statement, and they sign the working with a realtor brochure. Outside of those 3 documents, that's it. I send in my measuring company to come in and measure the home. I send in my stager who's going to contact them to come in and stage the home. And once she's done, then I send in the photographer and take the photos of the home. We always do a follow-up with them as well, just to say, how did that go? What was that experience like for you? Keeps them feeling like they're in control and very much a part of the process. And it lets them know that we're paying attention to every detail on their listing prior to it even being on the market. One of the expectations that I set with the sellers is that I phone them twice a week on purpose. So I set their expectation for me to phone them on Monday mornings with what's called a Monday morning update, where I review everything that's happened for their home over the past weekend with them. The second call that I set them up for to expect is on Fridays, and that's a Friday morning market update. And what I've set them up for is that I'm going to talk to them about any new listings that have hit the market, any expireds that have come off the market, and any solds that have actually just happened since that past week. They also know that on Friday, we're going to be talking about the numbers. Does the current list price that we're at right now still make sense in relation to the latest listings or the most current solds? They know in advance that that conversation could lead to a price reduction. And a lot of times they bring that on themselves. They say, hey, look, you know what? It looks like we might be a bit high, Josh. Should we bring it down? So it's a natural transition to a price reduction. One of the reasons I choose not to do a pre-listing package is when I'm sitting in front of them, I really want their full focus and attention. I want their attention on me, and I want to be able to ask them questions where they're giving me their full attention and not flipping through a pre-listing package. Most of their questions are going to come straight from their gut, and that's really what I'm looking for. I'm Josh Bath, and I just shared my listing presentation with you, and I wish you all the best with yours.
Thanks, Christina. So guys, I love the fact that he expressed the fact that he does not use the pre-listing packet. And that's what I had said earlier, right? It's a matter of choice for you guys. Some of you will like it, some of you won't. Anything to chat about? Any ahas here from that video? Anybody at all?
Yeah, can I bring something to your guys' attention that I think that video was made for more of a neutral market, and I don't think it really matches in what's happening in our market right now. So look at it with more of a on a national level video. It really doesn't apply for whatever's happening right now here, definitely.
Agreed. Totally agree. There will be a time where what he talked about is going to come back in. Like, please, I mean, go ahead, find me an expired listing that happened most recently, right? It's not very common at all.
I was interested, he was using a lot of outside sources. Like he said something like, I have people that are going to come in and measure your home, a photographer, a stager. Would that only be brought up in the conversation prior to us knowing that? Was it based on the value of the house? It's not something you're probably going to have for everyone, or is it?
So it depends, right? Everybody's going to be different on that. You know, odds are, you know, you're probably not, Susan's not going to walk into a house for $150,000 and bring a stager. However, Susan, you might walk into that same $150,000 and you might be the stager, right? So it's still a service that you particularly can offer, but the outside source is probably not going to happen in that price point. Let's talk about the pieces on the outside source. Professional photography. You guys need to align yourselves. Start now. Align yourselves with an incredible professional photographer that concentrates on real estate. Anybody, I can't stand when I open up an MLS and I know it was taken with an iPhone. And that's great, right? These iPhones are amazing. You need a professional photographer. That's an outside source. Staging, if and when it's necessary. So we offer it on virtually every one of our listings, not staging advice. Let me say that, okay?
Okay.
So we offer it for our clients. My wife will come in and have a 1-hour consultation with every single one of our sellers, every single one of them. She'll tell them this needs to go there, this needs to go there. You should choose this for paint colors. You need to consider doing this. So she might rattle off 20 things that could be X amount of thousands of dollars, and then it's all in the seller's court. What would they then like to do? And then from there, they'll either choose to hire a professional to do some of those things or not. I could do it to a certain extent. Lori's got a gift well beyond what mine would ever be. So for me and Bill, that's what we do. We utilize Lori to do that. So if you guys have somebody that you want to bring into your world, maybe it's not going to be a massive dollar amount for them in the beginning, but you just want to kind of ramp it up. So be it. Shameless plug, Lori will do it for you too. Whatever her fee is. I don't know what it is for an hour, but she's awesome. She's awesome. I had a great question here. Caitlin, she sent me a direct message. She said, if a new agent was interested in possibly shadowing an experienced agent on a listing presentation, how should they go about doing that? Ask. That's it, Caitlin. Ask for it. Whether it's me or anybody else who's experiencing this in the office here, just ask. So I know for open houses, we have that shadowing program. So you could definitely talk to Eric and Joe, and they'll guide you through that process. I have people that reach out to either Matt or Christina or Lisa about these opportunities, and then they'll end up sending it out to everybody in the market center. So yeah, feel free to shoot me a private email on that, or anybody else who's willing to take you on and shadow that listing appointment. That's totally cool. How do I feel about giving the seller my price range after the appointment rather than at the appointment? Carolina, can you, I don't know if I see your face. I'm scrolling through. If you can unmute and jump on, I want to talk to you about it.
Hey, sorry.
Yeah. Okay. All good. All good. All good. So let's have that conversation. Okay.
Okay.
So how do I feel about giving the seller my price after the appointment versus at the appointment?
Yeah.
Statistics are going to show that when you leave that appointment and you didn't take the listing, your chances of receiving the listing will come down.
Okay.
That's if, but I'm going to close this up here. The example that was given was with a pre-listing packet, at least what I've been talking about today. If I use a pre-listing packet, then I'm giving them pricing at the house. If I don't use a pre-listing packet, then what I'm personally doing is I'm expecting a two-step process, but if I can seal the deal, I'm sealing the deal there. So here's what I do. Anytime I know I have a listing presentation, I'm going to ask, how many agents are you interviewing for the job? And if they say 3, 4, whatever that number is, I say to them, no problem, I only have one request. Very simple. I would just say, Carolina, if you don't mind, I'd like to be the last one in the door. Is that okay? And 9 times out of 10, the answer there is yes. That's obviously all done on purpose so that I've set in their minds that I am definitely getting my opportunity, and I'm not going to give somebody else the opportunity to shut it down that time. Number 2, if I didn't do a pre-listing, I've never seen their house. It's an abstract style. It's not the norm. I might need some time to get back and do some work in the office. And I might not be able to give them a good number on their house right then and there. So to answer your question, it's kind of twofold. I always want to give it to them at the appointment, because I want to leave with a signature, but it's not terrible to say we're going to come back and have a secondary conversation. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Absolutely. Maria says, do you provide the cost for the staging consultant? So again, in your case, if you were going to offer it, you would let them know what that cost would be and whether or not they're going to pay for it or you're going to pay for it. It's totally up to you. So I'm pretty sure like a 1 hour consultation with an interior designer, decorator, whatnot would be about like $250, which is a joke. Really, when you stop and think about it, I know I see the Mezzacolas are on here. I know Francesca's totally into that stuff. So think about this. If I walked into a house and man, there was just nothing right. The design was terrible. The colors were terrible, everything. Some people just aren't meant for it, right? Some people don't have an eye for decor. We were all built a certain way. I'm 5'6", 165 pounds. I wasn't built to be the center for the New York Giants, right? Just is what it is. Some people, they can't see. They don't see color. They don't see design. They just don't get it. So when you have the opportunity to bring somebody in and spend, I'm just drew that figure out because I think that's a good average, $250, that could return them 20 grand, maybe way more than 20 grand. I'll tell you right now, I bet you it would be more than 20 grand. It's worth it. So to your point, Maria, you could provide that payment. That's up to you, or you put it on the seller. Just tell them that you're going to connect them with an industry professional that's going to consult with them for an hour and then move on from there. And let them know that that $250 could return them a whole heck of a lot more than even 20 grand. So totally key there. So is there any other ahas? Is there anything that anybody picked out of his listing presentation that you liked, that you didn't like before we move on? Anything at all?
I liked his seller who walked him through the house in 5 minutes and connected.
I like 5 minutes, right, Aida?
Yeah, like
Ron,
what kind of seller is that? 5 minutes.
Yeah.
so Ron,
Eric,
let
I
me
heard
just
you.
understand. So you're for the pre-listing packet if you don't feel you need to do a two-step.
Yeah, I think a pre-listing packet is awesome, Eric. And I personally am a fan of not sending it. I'm a fan of filling it out myself on a 5 to 10 minute call with the seller prior to me being at their house. That's the way I like the pre-listing packet. Eric, I'm pretty sure you use them. How do you do them, bud?
If I don't need to do a walkthrough, I'm gonna put together a pre-listing book. First part of the book's gonna talk about myself, the team, how we operate, how we think, success, track record, all that good stuff about us. The second part's gonna go into the analysis. Now, I've been taught that you show them the price, you show them a net sheet in the pre-listing book. Again, you have to pick and choose who if somebody's asking you, we just had somebody ask us 5 times before we got to sit down at the table, what's your commission?
Yeah.
What's the commission? And then his wife asked the same time, they're elderly people. I said, wow, you guys must have been married for a long time because you think exactly alike. You want to know the commission's important to you. So that's a guy that I might just go ahead and leave that off for now. We'll discuss that at the table. But I do the pre-listing book in advance. I'm a big believer in it. And I'm a believer in investing in that pre-listing book and have it be top notch.
Yeah, I remember you doing that. And your book is awesome. I love it. And guys, this is what's so cool is we have 2 different styles, right? It's totally fine. It's like Baskin Robbins, right? 31 flavors.
That's right.
So Ron, excuse me for a quick minute.
Yeah.
So you at no point deliver an actual packet. You basically do it all on the phone. And by the time you go there, you're going there to just sign. Is your approach.
Yeah, for the most part. There was a time when Bill and I were cultivating a lot of luxury business. I would always send a pre-listing packet on the luxury realm.
You would mail it or you drop it off?
Either way. But it was a hard binded cover. It was a beautiful book, and it's just because you're in a different realm. They expect that at that point in time. It's white glove service. Right?
At what point do you decipher, like, what's the price point in today's market that you would still do that? Actually,
it's market driven, right? So in one town, $1 million is a shack that's going to get knocked down.
Right.
So it's hard to just say it's an actual number because it's not. It has to be tied to your specific location. And that's up to you too. Again, this is me and Eric having this conversation where, you know, I right now I'm not doing that. I'm not. I've adopted a new way and it's working. You know, but so it doesn't make it wrong or right. It may whatever works for you. If you like that, you run with that. You run with that hard bound cover pre-listing book and send it out in advance. Run with it.
Right.
All good. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So guys, next, what I personally would love to do is ask a question and get everybody's feedback. So I appreciate it if we could jump everybody in the chat right now. Based on timing, we've got on the books, we've got an hour left, could be a little bit less. Would you guys like to go through page by page the guide to selling the home, or would you guys like me to walk through my listing presentation and bounce everything off of each other that way? Because I think the timing will be similar on both. So just jump in the chat and let's just we'll take a little toll. Okay. Listing presentation it is. Easy enough. Good stuff. Okay. So now we go here and here. So everybody's got their own listing presentation. Remember that. So what I now talk to you guys about is pretty much this is what we do. I don't want you thinking it's the only way you then have to do it. I want you could take a nugget out and you could apply it to what you're currently doing. You can take the listing presentation you just saw on video and you can blend the two, whatever. So I'm just here right now to talk to you guys about what we do on our listing presentations. And if that works for you, awesome. It definitely works for us. Last year we took 143 listings. FYI, you don't sell them all. Okay, newsflash. So don't ever, you're not going to get them all. I was on more than 143 listing appointments, didn't get them all. I think we sold out of the 143 listings that we took. I probably sold 90% of them. And that's a fallout ratio, right? You're not going to sell every single one. I say that in advance and jumping into the listing presentation now because it's proper expectation. I don't ever want to lose anything. I want to sell every single house we list, and I want to get every listing that I go onto a presentation. But the fact is, it just doesn't work that way. Okay. The minute you become okay with that, things start to get maybe a little bit easier. I mean that sincerely. So first, I'll walk through the process. I get an opportunity for a listing. My goal, first and foremost, is setting the appointment. So if my first conversation with whomever is, hey, John, I just got a call from a coworker of yours, Sally. Sally said that you were thinking about selling a house and she had referred me to you. How are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Conversation with John is pre-qualifying and scheduling my appointment with him. So I'm going to have all of my loose conversation with him. And imagine, guys, if I had a pre-listing questionnaire, the packet, and let's just say it had 10 major questions, I'm going to ask him those 10 questions. And it might be a ping pong, the way I ask those questions, because I want my conversation to flow. So I'm going to interject some of those questions in a very tasteful manner so that it doesn't look like I'm reading from a page. I never want that. Remember, we're always looking to connect on an emotional level with somebody, and that's what's going to draw them in. I'll say this too before I go into the listing. If you guys have not heard me say this before, you're now going to hear it. Get used to it because you're going to hear it for the rest of your lives while you're a part of my world. Last thing I talk about when I first speak with somebody is real estate. Last thing on earth. Even though this person just referred me to sell their house, real estate in that conversation is ironically last. I'm trying to find some point of commonality with that person. So when I'm on the phone with John, I'm going to pick everything out that I possibly can. Example, let's just say, my first thing with John is, how do you know Sally? Because Sally was that commonality that we had. Okay. And then I'm going to play on that a little bit with him in loose conversation. Where's your house? Hypothetically, right? Just giving my examples. Let's say he says Bergenfield. right? I lived in Bergenfield before I moved to Pequannock. I'm going to jump on the Bergenfield commonality, start talking. Who do you know? What street is that on? This is the street I grew up on, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to build this rapport with this person the whole way through. And real estate itself, his house that I'm going to sell is going to be last on the list. And when I get done with that commonality, I'm setting the appointment. And I'm going to tell you right now, easiest appointment I'll ever set in my life, because whatever amount of time I just spent on the phone with John, building rapport outside of real estate, this guy can't wait for me to come over. He can't wait. He wants to crack a beer. He wants to have a cigar. He wants to go hang out on the weekend. And that's my goal. That is my goal, for me to connect with him or her, whoever it is I'm talking to, so well, so that when I get there for the listing appointment, I already got it. All right. I hope that makes perfect sense to you guys. Now the listing. So when I sit down, I do exactly what Josh talked about, right? I tour the home with them, whether I had a pre-listing packet or not. I definitely had questions I had gone through. I tour the home with them. What you heard Josh say is about the kitchen table. So if there's not a kitchen table, find that local meeting place. It could be the living room. And I ask, is it okay if I put my bag down here? Before I even got to that point, just a word to the wise. Every time I walk in someone's house, the first words out of my mouth: would you guys prefer I take my shoes off? And I let them know, look, and you'll get some people that feel like, oh, that's weird. No. I take my shoes off at my house. I don't want to bring this stuff in here. Is it okay? I will make them demand me to keep my shoes on, because I want to show that I have respect for their home. Shoes on, shoes off, whatever, bag down in that common place. And now we do the tour. What they tell you in a lot of these is that they prefer you take the tour alone. Not if it's my first visit. I'm going through and I want that. What they'll say is that if the seller takes the tour with you, they're going to explain, what they did in this room, and then that's why it's worth so much money. I don't care about all that. I'm gonna get nitty gritty with them later. I want them walking through that house with me. I want them telling me all about their home. If I feel I need to do a private tour after, I might say, okay, guys, can you give me like 5 minutes? I just want to again and take some personal notes. No problem. Get through, and now it's time to sit down. I'm not going to go into the price right then and there if it's my first visit. If I did what Eric did, if I do a full-blown pre-listing questionnaire on everything and it's a cookie cutter, so if I got a buy level, better yet, if I have a townhouse in a community where they're all the same, and I know it's 3 beds and 2.5 baths, it's 3 levels, it's a 1-car garage, all that stuff, I may very well do the tour and say, is there anything besides price that we need to talk about today? Because if I did the whole pre-listing in advance, that there might be nothing else to talk about at all. And they might be the type of people that want you to cut to the chase. So if I did a ton of work in advance and I have a cookie cutter home, I might drive right to it. Traditionally, you won't. And this is where we'll start talking listing presentation. When I sit down and talk listing presentation, I let them know, guys, before I get started, I just want to let you know what to expect. Today, we're going to talk about 3 things. We're going to talk about Keller Williams and why you should use them. We're going to talk about the Basiliosa Group and why you should consider using us. And then we're going to talk about me, the person who's in front of you. Does that sound good? So closing with those nice soft closes at the end. Does that sound good? Does that make sense? Are you okay with that? Do I have your permission? All those closes at the end. Okay, now I'm going to operate in 3s. So when I say the YKW part, why should they use Keller Williams? We're going to talk about 3 different things, which I have written down here. In your heart, guys, in your heart, you need to believe that that person that you're talking to should only consider Keller Williams, even if it's not you. And those words come out of my mouth. So I tell them, my goal when I get done here today is to help you understand there is no better company out there to choose from than Keller Williams. So even if you decide not to list with me, which I think would be a mistake, right? Crack a smile, quick. That's a great little insertion there for the joke, soften things up, right? But even if you chose not to, I beg you to use Keller Williams. And here's why. And now I'm going to jump into the 3. So here's the difference between Keller Williams and all the traditional models. Keller Williams is a collaborative model where all of these agents come together and actually have a vested interest in selling one another's properties. Why? Because Gary Keller created this profit share model. So every time we sell a property, it adds to the profit of the office, and every agent gets to share in that. Now, that's a great concept. Why is that important to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? It's important to you because you're not hiring Ron Iosa. You're hiring an entire sales force that actually has a vested interest in selling your home. So instead of us all walking around and selling, I don't like using company names, but I'm gonna, Caldwell Banker's listing, Weikert's listing, Remax listing, right? And instead of any of that happening, when we sell a Keller Williams office listing, it adds to our profit share. So can you see why it's so important to choose a Keller Williams agent over another agent? Because you're not just getting that person, you're getting people from every other market center in and around this current location. Meaning, if you hire me, and this, by the way, guys, subliminal right here, these are little ones, right? So instead of an if, you might drop a when right there, and it actually just kind of sinks in. So when you hire me, by me saying that, it's right here for them that they've already hired me. When you hire me, you're not just getting me. You're getting 225 agents out of the Wayne Market Center, and you're getting 1,000 agents out of the Bergen County Market Centers, and so forth and so on. So I explained to my sellers why it is so important to choose Keller Williams from the collaboration model. And I'll end. And do you see why it's so important to hire a KW agent over any other agent in the marketplace? Usually you get like a yes on that. Next is why KW? Market share. Keller Williams is the #1 company in all statistical categories. We have the most agents, we sell the most homes, we do the most dollar volume. That's great because we could pound our chest and say we're #1. Why is that important to you? We're also #1 in market share, meaning if you pull up the Garden State MLS, there's 1,300 offices. 1,300 different companies represent the Garden State MLS. If you pull up the New Jersey MLS, combined together, who has market share? The top 7 out of 10 offices in both of those MLS services, you guessed it, Keller Williams. So now I'm going to go back, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Why did I say that was so important to you? Why is having #1 market share most important to you? It ties back to what I said earlier about collaboration. So by hiring the company who sells the most amount of houses, brings back the most amount of action collaboratively from their agents, which in turn brings more agents to your home. You know, I used to work with another company, and the company I was with prior, everything was held tight to the vest. If I listed a property, I didn't care to share all of that with the people in and around my office because that was my bit of inventory. And it only benefited me if I was able to sell that. And that's what you saw on the other side of the desk. At KW, I just want another KW office to sell it because I know that we all benefit inside of that collaborative model. And I might spend a couple minutes, guys, I might spend a couple minutes with them on the profit share model and how we get to benefit from other market centers as well, right? So I might benefit because the Ridgewood office sold the property. I don't need to get into crazy detail there, but I might just touch on it ever so lightly right there. So again, everything comes tied back to technology. And the third piece that I'm going to talk about in KW is going to be technology. So truth be told, I'm no tech guy. I'm not, right? I think maybe I shared this on the last one with you guys. From age 22 to 30, I owned a deli. I sliced roast beef for a living. I didn't turn a computer on. All right. When I was 30 years old was the first time I touched a computer. And it was so foreign to me, it wasn't even funny. So technology, for me personally, self-admittedly, is a little bit difficult, right? It's not something that I automatically attract to, but the rest of the world does. So when I talk about technology to the seller in front of me, I'm going to tell you that there is one, or at least the first one to the table, self-admitted technology company in real estate, and that's Keller Williams. Again, Why is this important to you? See, Gary Keller spent an incredible amount of money creating a platform, which is called Command. And I really don't want to spend too much time on it because that's not why I'm here today. I'm here to explain why those things are important to you. So Gary Keller spent 50 million of his personal dollars to invest in this product, this platform, this program called Command. Let me tell you what's so important about that. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, are you on social media? Yes, of course they're on social media. And if not, okay, we'll drift from there. Most of them are going to be on social media. You know, if you wanted to, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you can create an ad on Facebook right now, all on your own to sell your house. You have that ability. Here's the difference. When I create the ad, I actually don't create the ad on Facebook. I actually create the ad through Command, and that goes into Facebook. Why do you think that's important? The reason that's important is because when you create your ad, or by the way, if you chose another agent from another company to represent you and they created that ad campaign that they created has an algorithm. And every other person has an algorithm, right? So what I'm trying to do right here, by the way, is I'm trying to get almost messy with them, right? Where it looks totally messy. And they each have their own algorithm. This one, that one, this one, that one, the car, the house, the clothes, whatever it is, whatever campaign is being built. Gary Keller spent $50 million and overnight became the #1 customer for Facebook. #1. There's not a bigger customer on Facebook than Keller Williams. There's over 1 billion users on Facebook, so I'm sure you can see why that's pretty darn impressive. Now, why is it important to you? It's important to you because every ad that we create has one algorithm. When I go through Command, that's what made me the #1, Keller Williams, the #1 customer on Facebook. There's one algorithm. So my ad for your house pops to the very top of everybody else's list. And the ad that you create or the ad that the other person from the other company creates does not reach the heights that my ad creates. Do you see why this is so important to choose a Keller Williams agent? Understand that print marketing today is gone. It's in the past. It's not how we market properties. We market properties digitally, online, whether I'm on my mobile phone or on my laptop or on my PC. Everything is done digitally. My job is to make sure that I get in front of as many people as possible through that digital platform. Does this make sense to you? Do you understand why technology is so important? You're obviously getting buy-in by asking those questions and they roll with it. Then I talk about the other pieces that I know every other agent is talking about, okay? So I might have inverted what I just said to you guys in the way I'll bring it to somebody. So we would say, look, every agent you sit down in front of is going to talk to you about Zillow. They're going to talk to you about Trulia. They're going to talk to you about Realtor.com. Because the truth is, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when any agent lists your house, it's automatically on those websites. There's nothing that that agent or I did anything special in order to end up on those websites. So let's go deeper. Now, this is also great, guys, by the way. If you remember, I said I want to be last. This is where being last is so important. So if I know that they met with somebody, I try to find out who they met with and which company. So whether they tell you the name of the person or just the name of the company, no problem. This is where I ask the question about marketing. So Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, you said that you had met with John Smith of ABC Realty. Before I go on with my listing presentation, would you mind telling me what they said about marketing your home? By asking the question right there, I know what the answers are going to be, and I know what they're not going to be. So I let them speak however they're going to speak, and then I say, so did anybody talk about targeted marketing ad campaigns? I'm telling you right now, guys, the answer, 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. They're like, no, they didn't. I'm like, okay, that's crazy to me, but let me explain why that's so important to you. And on targeted marketing ad campaigns, I'm now going to jump into a live example for them. So I say, hey, I noticed a Honda CR-V. I think we used that example with Shirley on this last time, right? So I open up on the Honda CR-V. And I say, you know, if you were in the market for a new car, actually, or if that looks new, I assume you shopped online. When you shopped online, didn't you notice how all the ads started showing up? You started getting emails, you started getting on your social media. Everything was about that Honda CRV. It's almost creepy, right? We're those creepy people. And then they laugh, right? So look, I didn't create it, and I honestly don't even know how it fully works on the back end. But let me tell you what we do. Targeted marketing ad campaigns are the #1 way anyone's home should be marketed right now. Why? Because it's the #1 way buyers shop right now. So what I do is I create this funnel. And guys, right now, very important. Right now, I'm going to touch on everything that's in their minds. Okay. So the way targeted marketing ad campaigns work is there's a funnel. And inside of that funnel are all of the keywords that people put into their URL in their search engine. And so let's talk about them. Right now, there's a ton of people coming out of New York City, right? And the sellers get all jacked up on that. They're like, yeah, I see them nonstop. New York plates, that's what's happening. I watch the news. So now I got them, their juices are flowing because now I'm telling them, how again was your other agent going to connect with the New York buyer? What? Because it was on Zillow? Well, every one of us puts it on Zillow, but I'm going to get proactive and I'm actually going to market to the New York buyer by creating this funnel with all the words that they're searching for: suburbia, suburban, suburban life, right? Whatever, woods, lake house, New York exes, New Jersey, work from home, home office, build it, build it, build it. All of these keywords into this funnel. And then, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to pay every day, every week, every click, whatever it is that I choose for the campaign that I think is going to be right for your home. So what's key about that is nobody else is talking about paying money every single day at all. They're not. You're going to. You should be telling them that you're spending money. This will actually help on the commission side later on. So I'm going to go ahead and tell them exactly what I'm going to do about spending this money on this ad campaign. I also let them know, I don't tell them that my average ad, guys, I think everybody, if you're into this right now, it's about $1.20, $1.30 per ad to the Facebook ad campaigns. I'm not telling them what the average ad is costing you. The average lead, is costing you. I'm just telling them that on average, I'm getting about 60 responses for every single ad campaign that I put out there. And then I'm going to ask you, see why this is so important to you. Okay, make sense? Good. No questions, right? 3 things for KW right there. So why KW? Collaborative environment. It is a tech company, which is key, and market share. Those 3 are the 3 most important reasons why we choose KW. So when I get done at all of that, do you see why choosing a Keller Williams agent is the most important option for you to choose from? Do you see why you should only consider, even if it's not me, a Keller Williams agent? So I want that listing, but by me saying that, I'm also going to bring down their guard a little bit. I'm not trying to shove me down their throat. I'm helping them understand why they should choose KW. So next, I go into same thing for keeping it simple. 3 reasons why they should choose my team. Guys, in this case, this is where if you're a single agent, you insert you. So there's 3 reasons why KW. Somebody's not muted. I don't know who it is, but if anyone could just check, make sure you're muted so we lose that background. So this is where you would go you. So I go 3 reasons on the Boswellosa group. You would go 3 reasons why your name personally right here. So for us, we start out with a geographical area. So Bill and I, at this point in time, we say how we have boots on the ground in almost every single county in North Jersey. And I say that with confidence because I know where we're marketing. I know where my listings are. I know who my buyers agents are currently out with. By saying that, I'm letting them know that I'm coming out of the little hyper-focused area that they live in, and I'm going to cast a really wide net. I use this language as well with fishing, that I want to cast a wide net. I want to cover a massive area. Years ago, how did you hire your agent? You called the local agent that everybody knew, And everyone had to go to that agent to get the information. Today it's inverted. Today, we don't know where our buyer's coming from. They're all going online. How do I get to them? It's no longer how did they get to us? How do we get to them? So I talk about a large geographical area. Does that make sense? Good. Yes, I hope. Next, I talk about packaging of a listing. So packaging, price, product, and delivery to me is packaging. And this is key. I love talking about this when I'm on a listing presentation, and it makes sense for all of them. So on packaging, I'm going to start with the professional photography. And professional photography today is a different conversation than it was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, not everybody was using them. Today, almost everyone is using them. But that's not the only piece that's important. The next piece that's important is saying that the photographer that you've aligned with yourself with is what you feel is probably the best in the industry. If you don't feel that way, get a different photographer. I promise you, guys, gals, nothing's more important than your pictures besides price. But I mean that. If those, you guys all shop online, right? We're on a computer screen right now. If you guys were fishing through, you know what I'm talking about. If that first screen doesn't look good, you're going to the next one. You're not spending time on it. They need to understand how important the packaging of the photography piece is. The next piece is emotion. So we try to stay away from, this is a 4-bed, 2.5 bath, center hall colonial, finished basement, built-in pool. It's so robotic and boring. Instead, I like to figure out a way to invoke emotion and have the seller picture themselves there as we talk about what could I use here as an example? A sun-drenched, glass-enclosed room, right? Instead of a sunroom, and so forth and so on. Instead of a finished basement, a recreational space perfect for, and then whatever it is that I want to talk about. Keeping in mind, we are in New Jersey, and I have to be careful of the words that I use, right? I can't say mother-daughter. I can't say extended family. So I have to get creative on how I'm going to verbalize that inside of my packaging to a way that makes the seller read it and say, the buyer read it and say, this sounds so inviting. And any other terminology other than bullet points, 4 beds, 2.5 baths, finished basement, blah, 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 anything else is going to invoke that emotion. So the packaging piece on how we package that listing is so important. And then the delivery, price, package, delivery. Delivery is key. Here's what Bill and Ron do on every one of their listings. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when we sign this listing, we're going to have our photographer come in, and those photos must be completed by a Friday of whatever week that we choose. If they're completed by Friday, the next Tuesday is when your house will be listed, strategically on a Tuesday. And if I list it on a Tuesday, no one's allowed in until Sunday on an open house. Let me tell you why that's so important to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. I strategically list a house on a Tuesday all the time. The reason I do that is because it takes 24 to 48 to 72 hours for every single website to extract the information on the MLS, right? We don't put the information on 350 to 700 different websites. We put it on the MLS. And through the Internet Data Exchange, IDX, they pull all the information out. Now, I know it's going to take 24 to 48 to 72 hours. So strategically, I list on a Tuesday, and I know that the world has your home in their hands by Friday. And now I don't let them in the front door. Why is that important? Because now I'm looking to build anticipation. Right now, there's no homes on the market. Inventory is as limited as can be. So every single buyer who's waiting for that next listing, when they see it, they want to do nothing but jump on it. They want to be the first one in the door. They got to have it. They're tired of losing the bidding war, blah, 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 blah. And so I tell them they can't come in. And that builds anticipation for Sunday. And what you heard Eric and I have a conversation earlier about, he specifically said, our goal is to bring all those people through the front door and have an incredible weekend so that we don't have to repeat that process day in and day out. Because Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to tell you right now, that's as annoying as it gets. And I know it. I'm going to have to ask you to leave your house 3 times a day. You're going to be kicked out for 2 to 3 hours each day. You have to gather up the dogs. It's hard. So my goal is to build such crazy anticipation so that on Sunday at the open house, the line in the rain is down the block. And that's exactly what we talked about earlier. That just happened, right? And that happens on almost every listing as long as the price is right, okay? That's got to be, that's just, I mean, it's got to be key. Because if I price the house too high, I'm not going to get that same result. The next piece on the Boswell Iosa group, and this is about you guys as well, is full support. My personal listing presentation, I talk about my back-end support, right? I have Carol, I have Samantha, I have Sally, I have my father as my runner. I talk about that support staff. If you're a single agent, you must leverage the market center at this point in time because you don't have a full staff yet, okay? You will, I don't care if you don't have a team, you will find yourself with a staff as time goes on and you build your business. Your staff is the market center and that's what you must leverage. And here's the example I give. I said, imagine, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, imagine you went to the doctor and when you got there and you buzz the doorbell and the glass opens up and a doctor with the white coat on hands you a clipboard and says, fill that out. I'll be right back to pick it up. Say, okay, usually it's not the doctor that gives me that clipboard, but okay, I take the clipboard. I fill out my information, I go back in, and then they say, okay, you're ready. And the doctor meets me at the door and brings me in. And then the doctor takes my vitals and weighs me, all done, and says, I'll be right back. Then the same doctor walked into the room and performs their analysis on me for why I'm there. And when I'm all done, he or she says, we'll meet you at the front desk to accept your payment. Now I go to the front desk and the doctor is at the front desk and takes my credit card. I hope every one of you would look at that and be like, that's weird, because that doesn't happen, right? There's somebody at the front desk. There is a nurse or a PA or somebody that takes vitals, and the doctor's job is to analyze only what's wrong with you. And it's that person's job at the front desk to accept your payment. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that is exactly how we approach real estate. Can you imagine if I were the person who put your information in the MLS? Can you imagine if I was the one who was taking your pictures? Can you imagine if I was the one who was getting copies of your keys, putting on your lockbox, putting up your signs, printing out your marketing material, delivering your marketing material, and so forth and so on? When you build up all these things that it takes for a listing, do you see why aligning yourself with, and guys, this is for you, me personally, I say, do you see why aligning yourself with the Boswell Iosa group at Keller Williams is so important? Because you have this massive staff behind you that handles everything. I'm not putting your sign up. I'm not getting keys made. I'm not putting your lockbox up. I'm not printing your marketing material. And guess what? You don't want me to. You're hiring me to market your home. And none of those exercises is marketing your home. My job is to get the most amount of people to walk through your front door, and none of those exercise does that. Does that make sense to you? And you'll get the head nod because it does make sense. The doctor analogy is absolutely perfect in this point in time. This is now where you get to close for them and help them understand what's most important to them. A seller's most important reason for hiring the agent they do is this. Is the agent you hire going to get you in front of the most amount of people? And if you choose to hire the hyper-local person only, and I'll give you guys a twist in a second. If you choose to hire the hyper-local agent only, my fear for you is you're only getting local exposure. What I bring to the table is local knowledge, but I cast a massively wide net around a much larger geographical area. I don't know where your buyer's coming from, but I'm going to market to the person who's in New York City. I'm going to market to the person who's transferring their job. This is another ad word for you guys, right? Like relocation from Indiana. I'm going to make sure that I have a global presence for you because that's what Keller Williams offers you. And I promise you that I am the person that will bring you the most amount of people through your front door. A local agent only cannot and will not do that. Now, what happens, Caitlin Lee? What happens if we are in Pompton Plains, right? I'm in this business for 16 years. A lot of people locally know my name from being in the industry for 16 years. In this point, I'm still going to tell them, you're now going to get me, the local expert who graduated high school from here, who's involved in programs here, whose kids go to school here. So I promise you, no one's giving you a better local presence than me. And on top of that, I'm going to bring you more buyers than any other agent that walks through this front door. Constantly focus on how many people you're bringing them. Remember, guys, when I argued what was most important was them, tie it back every chance you get. Tie it back to that. The last piece, guys, it was why Keller Williams, why the Boswell-Iosa Group, and why me. When I talked about why the Boswell-Iosa Group, you guys would say why you in that instance if you're a single agent, not working with a full-blown team. When I go to why me, now is where I'm going for connection. Now I'm going about who I am, what I do, what I've sold, and you can go into your expertise and things of that nature. If you don't have those sales behind you, leverage the market center. This is where you can't be afraid to be in that position because you're new to the industry and you don't have all those sales. That's okay. This is your opportunity to leverage 225 agents in your market center that does have those sales. And remember what I said. When you list a property, every one of those agents is incentivized to sell your property as well. It's a full sales force behind you, right? Because we know that when they try to sell your property, it increases the bottom line and everybody in my market center profits from me listing your property. And then you tie it back. You see why this makes sense. So before I open it up for some questions, I'm going to go back to pricing because I said I didn't want to spend a lot of time on it and it's 3:05 and that's Sean's bit for tomorrow. I'm going to tell you my analogy for pricing. Use it, don't use it. I don't care, but this is what I do. So that was my listing presentation. And now we're going to bring in comps. We're going to go through it and I'm going to establish pricing. I say, when I talk about pricing, it's kind of ironic that my analogy is fishing. And I laugh because I'm not a fisherman. I don't fish. I've never fished. Maybe someday I'll fish. But ironically, my analogy is tied to fishing. And here's what it is. There's 3 pricing strategies in real estate. Just like you guys saw on the screen before. There's above the market, there's in the market, and there's below the market as far as valuation is concerned. So here's those analogies. If I went in a boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with my son's fishing pole and a red bobber and a worm, that's above the market. I'm going to drop that thing in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and I just hope I catch a fish. That's pricing it above the market. In the market would be my local pond where a lot of the kids go fishing. We know there's fish in there. And I'm going to put on there maybe a lure, not just a worm, and cast it out. And you know what? I'm going to catch something. That's what the odds are. And that's in the market. Below the market is me dumping chum at the bottom of South Africa and watching all the sharks come and feast at the back of my boat. You've all seen that on Shark Week, I'm sure, right? So that is legitimate analogy on pricing strategies, and it 100% is accurate. So my examples that I gave you guys was the property at 1076 Hamburg Turnpike was chum. For $375,000, sharks are surrounding that property, and it's going to sell for way over asking price. 80 Constitution in Morristown is the pond. That's why I got one offer on it so far, and maybe I'll only end up with one offer. God only knows. But do you see how that makes sense on the pricing strategies and why you price it that way? Okay, and that's what you want to play with on them. So my voice is getting hoarse. Someone else has to talk. Questions, anything at all that we could talk about now. I don't care what it is. You guys can ask me anything you want right now about my presentation, KW, Anything. Time to rock and roll. God, I hope someone says
I
something.
just want to say I love your presentation. Like, I'm excited for it. I just want to go out there and try to list something myself. No, but I think I enjoyed it a lot. I like the way you put it, and I would like to see other people's just to see how to get a different flavor out of everybody. I think it was very informative, and I like how you've sold KW. So I'm definitely going to take notes on how to do my listing presentation because that was really good.
Awesome. Thank you, Carolina. Carolina, you're brand new in the industry?
Yeah, I just started in January.
In January. Okay, awesome. Awesome. So yeah, definitely, if you ever want to get together, we'll have another class. If you want to talk to other people, most definitely, practice is key. There is a guy, his name is Ben Kinney. Ben Kinney is probably one of the most, if not the most successful Keller Williams agent. He's very top of the list. I just put his name in the chat. He practices his listing presentation with the agents on his team, or at least he did. He's in a completely different position now, if you will, every single day. Every single day for 30 minutes. They literally just practice their listing presentation. And in 2 minutes flat, he could deliver his entire listing presentation. So whichever one you choose to run with, I urge you to practice it.
So I have a question.
Go ahead, bud.
How do you present yourself to a potential client if you're like brand spanking new? I totally understand selling them on technology, selling them on the collaborative environment, but how does that work if, let's say, this is your first ever listing? Like what makes them want to choose you above all else if you have absolutely literally no experience within the market realm?
Awesome question, bro. All right, two ways I'll answer that. Okay, one way is if you know them, and the other way is if you don't. First listing I ever took, literally not a clue. Like what we're doing right now did not exist. Right? Guy walked in the office. This is when you got walk-ins, and he came in because he knew me, and I had a relationship with him when I used to own my deli. Okay. He called me up. He walked in and said, "Oh, I want you to come over. We need to sell the house." I went and saw the house, went through the whole presentation, came back, took the listing. I looked at my broker. I go, "I got a listing. What do I do now?" So answer number one was, someone's going to list with you, Abel, because they know you. This is why feeding your database and working your sphere is so important when you first get started, so that the people you're fishing with are your sphere. They know you, they like you, they trust you. It's low hanging fruit. So I'm begging you, work that sphere. Number one. Number two, now we'll get more difficult. How is it that you can talk to somebody and you just expressed all those things, but you personally don't have any of those experience? So I'm going to tell you what you should say, and then I'm going to tell you what I say if I know I'm going against you. Okay? So if I know that I'm going against somebody who's new in the industry because that seller told me, I'm going to pounce like a lion and say, "Look, I'm not going to tell you who to list with, but you're considering listing your house with somebody who has never sold a house before. They're brand new in the industry, and this is probably the most expensive asset you've ever owned in your entire life, maybe the most expensive one you'll ever own. So again, if you think going with somebody who's never done it before is a wise move, so be it. Let me tell you why I think you should choose my firm over that individual." So that's what I would say. You need to spin that on me. When you know you're up against other industry professionals who have done a lot of business and you've not done any, you need to say to them, "Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I know John Smith has sold a ton of homes. I can't deny that. He's been in the industry. She's been in the industry for X amount of period of time, and they've got a great name. But, I can't help but wonder, how much could they possibly handle at one time? I'm new in this industry, but I, whatever your background might be, I'm as hungry as they come. You, Mr. Seller, you are the only thing on my plate right now. So I promise you, The only home I'm marketing is your home. The only house I'm talking about is your house. The only house I'm going to be at on Sunday doing an open house is your house. And when my phone rings, I'm answering it because yours is the only one I'm working on. So if you think, Mr. Seller, that listing with somebody who's done all those other sales is better for you, I understand. But I would have to ask you, do they have time for you? So I'm in the opposite position. I'm always going to sell against what I just told you. That is what you should be telling that seller.
Understood. Okay. Thank you.
Make sense?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense.
And listen, leverage is key in this. Leverage is key. So you need to be able to sell to them that they have nothing but undivided attention from you.
So,
right?
so basically what I'm hearing from you is that aside from, focusing completely on them, just let them know that I will outwork anybody else within that listing. So
Yeah, man, Gary V, right? You're a Gary Vaynerchuk fan, right? You're going to outwork your competition.
Pretty much.
And you can. Sure. That's the difference, right? And you want to fight me, right? That if I'm going against you, you need to fight me that way and say he doesn't have time for you the way I do. That's what you need to say.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Well, couldn't one of your arguments be too, again, since we are a collaborative organization, that they're just not hiring you, they're hiring this entire collaborative organization that's going to work on their behalf. And yes, you may be someone who's got the least amount of experience, but you also have this network, you also have the technology, again, all those other selling points that you had brought out before.
100%. And Susan, don't you dare lose that opportunity. Okay? Don't you dare. Guys, everybody on this call right now, if you think that you might not get a listing because of your inexperience, take a half a loaf. Go and partner with somebody in the market center and bring them along with you. Okay? All too often, people in the industry, how much am I going to make? Well, geez, if I did it on my own, I'd make this. Why would I want to do it that way? Take a half a loaf. It's better than no loaf at all. So if you ever feel that you have that need, you tie into somebody. Absolutely. Plus, it's a learning experience for you.
Ron, I have a question.
Sure.
I've been, since I started to Ignite, I've been making the phone calls. And my problem is this: I'm a teacher and I've been a teacher for 15 years. All my friends, family, they call me when they need help tutoring for math or physics. Like I made a call the other day to an acquaintance and they're like, well, we're not selling, but can you tutor my daughter? She's taking the SAT. She needs help with math. That's the conversations I'm getting. Like I can't get the mind space that Bill is always talking about, in the masterminds. I can't get into their mind space as a real estate agent, more as a math tutor. And every phone call I've made is more about that. And I keep trying to reel it into real estate. And I keep saying, well, yeah, I'm trying to transition into real estate. Like, teaching was love for me, but now I want to, a different stage in my life. I want to do this. And I'm like focusing, and one of the things I say when they say, well, how do you manage it? I say, well, I only take on 3 clients at a time. That way I could really focus in on they don't know I don't have a single client. I say, I only take on 3 people because I want to give them the most of me that I can. I'm always available. And I have not been able to get a listing, not so much just for that, but the people they're not ready to list or anything. But every conversation turns into they need a math tutor for their kid or their niece or their nephew. They're going to take the SATs. Can you help it? I don't know how to get it away from there and get it more about me being a realtor rather than a teacher.
Okay.
Are they calling you first or are you?
I'm calling them.
Do you remember one of the most important things I said in this class today and in the last class? I don't know if you were on it. When I make a call, what's the last thing I talk about?
Real estate. That is the last thing.
Last thing. You should actually, I'm going to twist this for you. You are so blessed, it's not even funny, because you have the ability to be in front of these people, their kids, what's more important than our children. You have the ability to be in front of them for how many hours a week? Real estate will come. Be patient. You are so lucky you have the opportunity you have. Go ahead. Go tutor them.
I don't
And-
want to. I used to tutor. That's the thing. I used to tutor a lot, like 30 hours a week, you know, to up the income. And then I don't want to anymore. Like, I'm tired of doing it. I'd rather do this.
I understand that. However, it might be your segue. So I'm hearing everything you're saying,
Mhm.
and I don't want you thinking it's negative, because I'm hearing a negative from you. It's actually positive. These people want to invite you into their home, right? Through tutoring or even through Zoom. You're getting FaceTime with them. Take it in the form of tutoring today, convert it into real estate tomorrow. Do not lose that opportunity. I'm telling you right now, you're actually ahead of the game, and you don't even realize it. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Hey, Ron, one comment that I used to always try to give to new agents, because they would get discouraged, just like I heard the same thing, like she sounded like she was getting discouraged. But although you're not a fisherman, I'm not a baseball player, but I relate this to baseball. You take a baseball player that's got a 300 batting average. 300 batting average. He's a superstar.
Hall of Fame, baby.
But what does that really mean? He hits the ball 3 out of every 10 times he's up at the plate. So he's a superstar with a 30% batting average is basically what it says.
That's right.
So you're not going to hit that ball every time you get up at plate. But the more times you get up at plate, the more chances and opportunities you have to increase your batting average. So I always related it to that. And
I love it, Fred. Love it. Thank you so much, Fred. Hey, Fred, if I'm not in the stadium, I don't get the at bat.
There you go.
I ain't swinging the bat from Jerome Ave in Yankee Stadium. I got to be in the stadium. Okay. So, Bell, you have an opportunity to be in the stadium. You have an opportunity to be in front of these people. Take it. Take it and understand it's an investment for you. I'm telling you, you're lucky. You are so lucky, because it's going to translate to business for you. I promise, Fred. Right, Fred? I mean, like, I wish I was in that position, right?
Oh, yeah.
As a new agent.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I will try to look at it as a positive more than a hindrance.
Definitely. And again, Bell, because it is. I'm not telling you that for fluff. I'm not. I'm telling you, you are very lucky. And I promise you, if you play those cards right, that's going to turn into so much more business for you. I know it is.
Yeah. And when they get out of college, you're going to be the realtor that helped them get through college.
That's right.
Find them a house.
There you go. See?
What subject do you teach?
Math and physics.
So there's a lot on math in real estate.
Yes.
So when you're teaching math, you can relate it to real estate stories. Like if somebody puts 20% down on a property, how much of a mortgage do they have to pay, and their initial deposit, fun stuff like that. That relates to us, but that will transfer to them, because it's all very simple math, and it'll get the wheels turning.
Okay.
Thanks, Antonino.
Thanks.
Love it.
Ron, real quick, how do you deal with a listing presentation when you have two decision makers? One 100% wants to sell the home and is motivated, and the other one is kind of fighting and not so much.
Don't fight back. So I've experienced that a ton in my career so far. If you know, Pedro, if I was at your house right now and you wanted to sell and Maria didn't, if I were to align myself only with you, Maria would feel that, and there would be a larger disconnect between I and Maria. There would definitely be that disconnect. If anything, Maria, you would be begging for me to leave your house, right? I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
So in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm completely going to shift, and almost all of my attention would go to Maria, and I would want to hear her positioning of why. I would start to ask what her goals are. What is her big plan? Why is it that you don't want to sell, but Pedro does? I just want to soften her. Okay, because in that position, that other party is filled with angst and anger towards you, their spouse, not me, but inadvertently it becomes me. So I need to break down that barrier. So when you have that situation, you want to appeal to the person who doesn't want it, and just keep asking questions, just keep letting them talk, and then work through it. And eventually, when you soften things enough, that person will start to say, all right, I see what you're saying. Instead of me saying, why wouldn't you sell? Maria, this market's crazy. You're never going to see this money again. Why wouldn't you do this? Right? I'm just digging my hole deeper. So just try to appeal to that person and their senses, as opposed to, you wanting to get that listing. That make sense? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
I've dealt with a lot of, unfortunately, divorce cases in my career. Felt like I could have been a divorce attorney by the time I get done with them, right? It's brutal. What I've noticed in those cases is there's such animosity between the couple as they're going through their divorce. And inadvertently, one side always feels like the realtor cares about the other side only, right? So let's just say, in this case, Pedro, let's say Maria had gotten me as a referral. You, in this case, would be like, well, I didn't choose him, right? Because you're so angry because you're in the middle of a divorce. Anytime I'm in that situation, I make sure that it's never about sides, never, right? And I'll do everything I can, ironically, to say, you know what, Maria, Pedro is absolutely right in this case. This is something that we must consider during the process. So now Pedro understands that I'm a little bit on his side. He's not going to feel bad. It's the same thing in the question you had asked. Okay, cool. Anyone else? Any other questions?
Great session, Ron.
Thanks, Fred. No, going once, going twice, sold. It's a good word. All right, guys. Always a pleasure to be with you guys. You guys know how to get me. If you don't, here, you know what? I'll put it in here. This way you guys all have my email as well. Yeah, I'm busy, but reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have along the way. Forgive me, who was it? Caitlin, I think it was you who said, about shadowing on a listing presentation. Feel free, you can email me that. If I have an opportunity, by all means, you are more than welcome to join me in it. I'm sure there's other agents in the market center that would say the same exact thing. So that's it, guys. Don't forget to do your 10-4s, fill out all the paperwork that you have. Be ready for your next presentation, which I believe is from Sean Annan. A little bit about Sean Annan. Sean Annan went from probably doing 13 million to almost doubling his production after 16 years in the industry. And he will tell you how he did that through KW and his pricing. He's actually phenomenal at it. So enjoy that one. Good luck. Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you guys.